Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. We've got breaking news. It's been announced in the last hour that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is visiting Downing Street in a number of hours ahead of the all-important summit tomorrow between Presidents Trump and Putin in Alaska.
Here in Downing Street, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer will be hosting President Zelenskyy ahead of that all-important summit in Alaska tomorrow between Putin and Trump.
Also ahead, it's a huge day for teenagers as thousands across the country get their A-level results.
And I'm here at the EACT North Birmingham Academy, where students will be ripping open those envelopes in just over an hour.
And Spain asks for help from other European countries to fight wildfires raging across the country. Good morning to you, and it's a big morning too. The government told us an hour ago that Ukraine's President Zelenskyy will visit Downing Street in just a few hours, and we're going to have live coverage of that, of course, throughout the morning. We've also got A-level results in just under an hour, but breaking in just the last few seconds is the latest GDP data for the month of June that covers, therefore, the second quarter as well. Paul, you got them for us?
Yeah, and better news than anticipated by the consensus of economists, better news in that case for the Chancellor too. June's GDP was increased by 0.4%. That's up from a decline of 0.1% in May. So positive territory there. Now, monthly figures can be a little bit unreliable. So we have the Q2 figures. So that's the 3 months, April, May, June. And that came in at positive 0.3%. And again, that is higher than expected. It was anticipated around 0.1%. It is a slowdown on the first quarter of the year when GDP grew by 0.7%. So more positive figures that I'm sure we will hear shortly from the Chancellor will welcome from that point of view. I think our opponents will inevitably say this is a slowdown in the second quarter of the year, and what happened at the beginning of that quarter, the new employment taxes she introduced in the budget came in, and businesses have consistently said they have constrained growth. So better than expected, but still a tough question to answer.
Better than expected, tough generally, but no, I think you've got to pause. You know, 1 month doesn't make a trend, but June plus 0.4%, that's a monthly rate that would be great to have most months. And as you said, compared to May, which was a decline, it's a nice turning point. What will be important to see is whether it's a lasting turning point or just a monthly fluctuation. Paul, great stuff. 0.4% for June, which brings in the second quarter as a whole at plus 0.3%. More reaction on that throughout the morning. Bridget Phillipson joins us, by the way, in a couple of minutes. Let's turn, though, to the other developing breaking story of the morning. It's been confirmed in the last hour that President Zelenskyy will meet with Sir Keir Starmer in Downing Street shortly. Let's get out to Mari. She's there for us. Mari, what are we expecting in terms of this particular conversation? And, of course, it's all building up to the even more important meeting in Anchorage tomorrow between Presidents Trump and Putin, which Martha's going to cover for us in a moment. But, Mari, to you first of all.
Yeah, absolutely, Wilf. Keir Starmer is going to be hosting Zelenskyy here in Downing Street. They're going to be greeting outside that front door of 10 Downing Street about 9:30 this morning. And they've been quite tight-lipped so far as to what might be on the agenda, what will be discussed. But we can guess, of course, that all-important summit tomorrow in Alaska is going to be number one on the agenda. Keir Starmer has been very vocal in recent days, specifically around not trusting Putin, also around making sure that solidarity is shown with Ukraine, tweeting last night there should be no decisions about the future of Ukraine without Ukraine. So he's going to want to reiterate that to President Zelenskyy here in Downing Street later this morning. And I think also what is interesting is, to an extent, this might just be, a photo op, a reassurance exercise, but clearly Zelenskyy is also here because he wants to make sure that his nation's interests are at the forefront of everyone's mind, European leaders and US leaders alike. Those meetings yesterday will have obviously put it at the forefront for the US administration, but nonetheless, Zelensky's going to want to make sure that he reiterates those points to European leaders as much as he possibly can, especially when, as Martha's going to outline to you tomorrow, there's going to be the absence of Zelensky at that summit.
Yeah, fascinating. We'll look forward to that arrival in the next few hours. Meanwhile, Martha, fascinating prospect of the arrival of two presidents in a fairly remote part of the United States.
Yeah, mutually inconvenient location. It will take President Trump 8 hours to get here. It will take Vladimir Putin 9 hours to get here. But here they will come. They're meeting at a military base on the outskirts of Anchorage, which is Alaska's most populous city. Always an incredibly significant occasion when US and Russian presidents come together, even more so on US soil. The last time that Vladimir Putin was in the United States was back in 2015 when he met Barack Obama at the UN. But even then, he wasn't expressly invited here. Before that, it was 2007. So a huge occasion happening tomorrow. As ever, though, with Donald Trump, it really is incredibly unpredictable. As Mari was saying, European leaders uniting behind Ukraine and President Zelensky. Zelensky saying that he's received assurances from President Trump about what will, or rather what won't be discussed in this summit. Apparently, land swapping won't be talked about, despite Donald Trump indicating to the contrary earlier this week. Trump has apparently also assured President Zelensky that Ukraine will be a key part of any future discussions going forward. But certainly the people, the ordinary people of Anchorage, divided on what this meeting will mean and whether it should be going ahead at all. I was speaking earlier on today to a lady who lives in the centre of town. She has a Ukraine flag flying in her front garden. She says she bought that flag after watching on TV that now infamous meeting in the Oval Office back in February when President Zelensky was humiliated for not wearing his suit, when he was told he didn't hold the cards by President Trump. She says she's appalled and horrified that he won't be part of that meeting. It will go ahead, just the two men and translators in that room tomorrow.
Martha, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. Much more from Martha and Mark Austin and the team over the next 24 hours building up there. And, of course, from Mari as well in Downing Street ahead of Volodymyr Zelensky's arrival. Now, it's A-level results day, and hundreds of thousands of students across the country in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are waiting to find out if they've got the grades they've been hoping for. Delighted to say we're joined now by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. A very good morning to you, Minister. An exciting day and also a nerve-wracking one for so many children and students.
Absolutely, it's a very exciting day for our young people, but a nerve-wracking one too. And it's a day of celebration. I know how hard our young people have worked, the brilliant support that they've had from teachers and staff, and also parents who'll be waiting very nervously for their children to go and collect their results. So this is a great day of celebration. And my message to young people is that if you've got what you've needed to move on to the next step in your journey, that's fantastic. But if you haven't, there's lots of support and advice that's available, either from your school or college, but also through UCAS if you're considering going to university through clearing, and also the National Career Service, because there are lots of fantastic routes that are out there, whether that's apprenticeships, university, or much more besides. So a big well done and an important morning for our young people.
I guess you're in a great position to be able to give young people more broad advice, Minister. And this could be, for some of those people today, if they don't get the results, a really big blow in the short term. What's your advice to young people if they get that feeling? In that, I guess we all go through ups and downs, and you've got to kind of take the long-term perspective.
Absolutely. My advice and my message is that there is lots and lots of support that's available out there. Obviously, your first port of call can be your school or your college, and they can provide advice around next steps. But there's lots of help that's out there through the National Career Service, but also if university's the route that you're considering and perhaps you haven't got what you've needed for your first choice offer, there are lots of great options this year in terms of going through clearing. But as a government, we're also investing more in technical and vocational education as well. Just this week, I launched 10 new construction technical excellence colleges, one in every region, because there are also great routes that are out there, including apprenticeship opportunities, where young people can have fantastic careers. So there are a range of brilliant options. Just make sure that you're getting the support that you need. And if perhaps things haven't gone quite as you expected, there's lots of support that's available to make sure you can get back on track.
So is university less of a priority than it was a few years ago?
I think my view is that it's about different routes. It's about what's right for individual young people. University is a great route for lots of young people, but there are other fantastic routes that are available as well, whether that's through apprenticeship opportunities and other further study, and also going into the world of work. So for me, it's about making sure that young people have got real and genuine choices about what's right and best for them.
Obviously, we had the GDP data moments ago, 0.4% for the month of June, compared to a 0.1% decline in the month of May. You must be pleased, maybe relieved with that improved month-on-month figure.
Of course, it's positive and I welcome it, but we're not complacent. It does demonstrate how much more is needed. And as a government later on this year, through the budget, we'll also set out how we really drive forward on economic growth and on productivity. We've taken lots of action already. I was talking just there about skills and about technical education. We know that we've got some really big skills gaps in our economy. And if we take action on that, not only do we provide brilliant opportunities for good, secure jobs for our young people, but also for adults looking to upskill or retrain. But it's also a chance to build those homes that we need and provide a welcome boost to our economy. So there's a lot that we've done as a government, stabilising the economy, getting things back on track. But I think the Chancellor will be the first to recognise that there is much more that we need to do. Positive, but we're not complacent about it.
On that note, I'm sure you saw the news that Claire's Accessories overnight been reported that it's on the verge of going bankrupt. They employ over 2,000 people. Do you fear for the jobs market more broadly? We had some other data on that earlier this week too.
I think what we've seen is also an increase in the number of people in employment, over 380,000 more people, more kind of available opportunities. But we've also seen a drop in the levels of inactivity and more people in work, which is welcome and positive. And some of that is down to people moving, out of inactivity, which is welcome. We want to support people back into work. There are, of course, challenges on the high street. High streets really matter to people in their local communities, having a vibrant high street, also being safe on our high streets. And that's why the investment that we're putting in to police to make sure that people feel safe, kind of going into town, going about their business, is also really important as well. And the action that we're taking on retail crime, because that also provides a real source of worry and also a big issue for lots of high street retailers as well.
Just wanted to finish on President Zelenskyy. Of course, he'll be meeting Prime Minister Starmer in the next hour or two. I guess it slightly underlines the fact that both men are just observers on the sidelines of the all-important meeting this week between President Putin and President Trump.
We welcome the commitment of President Trump to ensuring that there can be a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. But we have always been clear as a government that Ukraine must be involved in those important considerations and discussions about their future where it comes to arriving at an outcome. We've got a very strong history in this country, not just under this government, but also under the last government as well, of supporting the Ukrainian people, of supporting the Ukrainian government and also President Zelenskyy. It's important that that endures, that we stand steadfast behind Ukraine. But we do welcome the progress that is being made and the work that President Trump is leading in hopefully getting us to a more sustainable position.
Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The Education Secretary there on A-Level Results Day. Let's continue our focus on that topic. We've got our correspondents around the country to cover the highs and, sadly, some of the lows of the day ahead. Anjan Pirbakos is in Bexley-Heath Academy in South London. Shaman Frimapal's at the North Birmingham Academy. And Dan Whitehead is at the UCAS HQ in Cheltenham for us. Full team coverage. Anjan, I'll come to you first of all. A big day ahead.
Yes, as you can see, I'm in a school hall here at Bexley Heath Academy in South London. And at the moment, all the tables are bare because obviously the results are under embargo until 8 o'clock. And that will be when it all kicks off and we'll have students milling around, receiving those all-important results. We've got hundreds of thousands of children across the country today that will be receiving those important A-level results. And I'm joined here today by the head teacher at Bexley Heath Academy. And how are you feeling this morning?
Probably as nervous as the children. Nervous because they've been with us for 7 years and they've got loads of hopes, anticipation about what the results are going to be, and that's going to have an impact on the pathways that they take in the future. We know we've done the best that we can. We're super excited for our children and we're really proud of everything that they've done over the last 7 years with us at Bexley Heath Academy. I just want them to open the results so I can celebrate with them.
And do you think that there'll be lots of students that do go on to university, or are there other options for them today?
Our students are going to university. They've got apprenticeships lined up as well. Apprenticeships are very, very popular, but also we've got a mixed bag of going to university and apprenticeships, but that's the right thing for them, whichever pathway they choose.
And are you happy with everything that they've done up until date? And obviously it's been such a journey for them. How does that make you feel as they've come to the end of their journey?
One word: proud. Really proud of our students for taking up every opportunity to coming into school every single day when it's difficult to do so, making sure that they take every advantage of every intervention that we put on for them, their one-to-one tuition, the hard work and resilience of our students, working those really late hours in order to prepare for those examinations. What more could they have done? And the answer is absolutely nothing. So whatever they get in front of them, I'm really proud of them, and they are going to do absolutely amazing things in the future. And I also want to add that people will often forget about teachers. For them, this is quite an exciting moment in their life. So we talk about the milestone for our students. 100% is a milestone in their life. But every single year, the same anticipation takes place with the teachers as well. So they'll be around to support the students today. But like I said, they're going to be as nervous as the students are.
Thank you so much. Just handing back now in the studio.
Anjum, great stuff. Thanks so much. We'll be back out with you at 8 o'clock as those results come in, and we'll obviously get some kids receiving, some students, excuse me, using getting their results. So we're going to get to Dan in a moment in the UCAS headquarters, but let's in fact go to Shaman first of all, who's at the North Birmingham Academy. And Shaman, I guess students haven't gathered yet, or maybe they have, but there'll be no doubt that great mixture of excitement and nerves.
Yeah, the students haven't gathered just yet, but you may be able to see behind me the banners are up, the balloons have just arrived, and the teachers are here waiting to meet those students who will be receiving those A-level results, as well as results for other technical qualifications too. There is anxiety and nerves, mostly on my part. I'm feeling very nervous for the students, but also the head teacher, the executive head teacher of this school, Jo Paddock, was sharing with me the excitement that she feels for many of her students, that will be finding out what their fate is really, whether or not they're going on to universities or apprenticeships, or just figuring out what they want from their life going into working world. What advice do you give to students in a time that can be quite high-pressured, right?
Yeah, take some time to figure out what it is you need. Just stepping back and looking at, your possible opportunities. Many people go and do degrees and then go on to completely different careers, but it's about getting those experiences and reaching out and getting that support where it's needed.
Absolutely. We heard from the Education Secretary that this year is the year that's the return to normal. It's going back to those grading systems that we saw before the pandemic. Do you agree with that? What challenges have your students faced?
Yeah, I think it's still going to take a couple more years for us to get over what the pandemic left on education. There are students who've still got gaps in their education, but we've worked really, really hard with the staff body to fill those gaps and identify really, really quickly where the additional support's needed. We have students who are from really diverse and disadvantaged backgrounds here, but we provide the additional support to be able to get them onto the next pathway possible.
How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, really excited. They've worked really hard and really deserve the grades they've got. Really excited.
Thank you. And that's right, isn't it? It's about acknowledging not just the grades and the qualifications that will be received today, but the hard work that goes into it. And at around 8 a.m. this morning, we'll find out those results.
Oh, well, we wait for that with excitement. Shaman and Anjum will be back for us with some of the students getting their results at 8. Let's get to Dan now. As we mentioned, he's at UCAS headquarters. Dan, an incredibly busy day there.
Yeah, really busy day. This is the nerve centre, of course, for all of those people getting the results around the country. If it doesn't go as expected, they'll be calling in to the several hundred of staff who are just preparing 45 minutes or so until those results are released. And we can chat to Sam Sykes, who is the UCAS School and Colleges lead here at UCAS. Sam, thanks for joining us. We've been hearing from some of the students, the teachers there. It's a nervous morning, isn't it? How's it looking? I know we're going to sort of find out at 8 o'clock on university places, but how is it looking in terms of students getting their first choices?
We expect it to be a really positive picture today for students, with the vast majority being placed at their first choice, so much cause for celebration. For those that don't, of course, clearing gives plenty of choice, whether you're looking for an available place or reconsidering your options.
We've seen some statistics that a lot of the top universities do have places. And you were saying, actually, many students end up going back to some of their top choices, even through clearing.
Yeah, what we know from 2024 is that 50% of students looked back at a course they'd originally applied for. From my time in schools, I know that that's a really sensible option. You've made a connection with that university already. You'll have done strong research into it. So for students that do find themselves reconsidering their options today, I'd suggest that's a great starting point to think back to one that you originally applied for. Start there, make a shortlist.
And how does the process work, Sam? We can see some of your staff, not just here, on other floors here in the HQ here in Cheltenham. How does it work? People perhaps in 45 minutes or so not getting the results they want. I suppose the message is don't panic initially, right?
I think we just need to remind students that there's plenty of choice no matter what situation you're in, and it's going to be a great opportunity today for them to take stock of where they're at and reconsider what they want to do. The process is really simple and everybody wants to support you. I think that's really important to remind everybody. So from 8 a.m, students will get an email from UCAS where they'll find out what situation they're in. From that point, start thinking about options, look on ucas.com for the latest clearing options available, and then start making those calls to universities to find out what places are available, and really use it as a chance for the student to think about what they want, ask questions about that course as well, and then from 1 o'clock you can add a clearing choice into your UCAS application.
Lovely. All right, thanks. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Around 27,000 clearing courses, spaces available, and half an hour or so, just over that, till students can find out how they've done.
Dan, great stuff. Thanks so much. As we mentioned, we'll be back out with Anjum, Dan and Shimon throughout the morning, including at the top of the hour as those results cross. Right, let's get you up to speed now on some of the day's other stories. And an American man who faked his death and fled to Scotland to escape rape charges has been found guilty of one of those charges in a Utah court. The 38-year-old Nicholas Rossi was accused of sexually assaulting 2 women in the state in 2008. He denies the second charge. A man accused of driving into crowds at Liverpool Football Club's title parade is due to appear in court today. More than 130 people were injured at the celebrations on the end of May. Paul Doyle faces 2 counts of wounding with intent and 1 of dangerous driving. Travellers are being warned about mosquito bites on their holidays after a surge in cases of an infection called chikungunya that can cause debilitating joint pain. Doctors say people visiting regions, including India, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, should use insect repellent and cover their skin. The singer Billy Joel's health is worsening. He's forced to close his popular motorcycle shop in New York after being diagnosed with a brain disorder. He'll auction off the collection after offering fans a free look for the last 15 years. He's also had to cancel concerts after learning of his illness. Now, at least 3 people have been killed and thousands evacuated as wildfires continue to burn across southern Europe. Spain's now asking for help from other neighbouring European countries. Rachel's here to break down the scale of this that we've talked about for the last few days now.
Yeah, this is an ongoing, continuing problem for a huge number of European countries, particularly those in the south of the continent, who continue to battle a huge number of spreading wildfires throughout their regions. We know that firefighting resources remain really severely stretched. This is despite assistance coming in from the European Union. We can see some of the many pictures here. This from Spain, where you can see firefighters and locals alike desperately trying to douse the flames, to try to bring this fire under control. But the huge hot weather, the high winds, just continuing to whip up these fires and spread it further and further afield. We know that Spain in particular are asking for help from European partners. They've actually requested more firefighters and 2 Canadair planes. These are the water bombing aircraft that you see to help try and fight back the flames. And we know a few days ago, sadly, a volunteer firefighter there did die from severe burns, but they've had the heat wave that's lasted well over a week, peaking on Tuesday with temperatures as high as 45 degrees, and they're expected to continue on into at least Monday. Other countries which have really been struggling, Portugal, Trancoso in the north particularly, Albania as well, huge numbers of people evacuated there. Turkey, a forestry worker actually killed on Wednesday while responding to a wildfire in the southern region of the country. We know that across Europe, fire, it's been reported, has affected nearly 1,700 square miles across the Eurozone. This is according to Reuters, double the average for the same period of the year since 2006. We know that authorities across European countries have cited multiple thick causes for these fires, from farming practices to improperly maintained power cables, summer lightning storms. In some cases, they've blamed arson, but we know it's just been made worse and worse by climate change, which creates this hotter weather, which makes it much more difficult to bring the fires under control.
And obviously, we talked about the loss of human life there, but we've also seen some quite amazing pictures in terms of animals and trying to get them to safety too.
Yeah, these pictures actually all come from Greece, where there's been a several days-long fight near the port city of Patras to try and basically save the city. Fire started in the mountainous region, spreading through sort of olive groves, and you can see there one man escaping with his dog, farm animals as well on mopeds, people doing all they can to rescue their pets, to rescue their farm animals, their livestock. I mean, the impact on humans, of course, we know a number of people have died already, staggering the impact on the environment. There's a donkey there, again, being led to safety. But it's just a sign of how the community is just rallying to do all it can to save whatever it can.
Rachel, great stuff. Thanks so much. We're going to quickly bring you some breaking news. It's an update from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, in response to that GDP data. Just a reminder, that data came in better than expected. We got a print of 0.3% for the month of... let me just find you this data again. A second. 0.3% for the second quarter. The month of June came in at 0.4%. That was better than expected, and April saw an upward revision to its previous print as well. This is what the Chancellor had to say in reaction. Today's economic figures are positive, with a strong start to the year and continued growth in the second quarter, but there's more to do to deliver an economy that works for working people. I know the British economy has the key ingredients for success, but has felt stuck for too long. That's why we're investing to rebuild our national infrastructure, cutting back on red tape to get Britain building again, and boost the national minimum wage to make work pay. There's more to do. Today's figures only fuel my ambition to deliver on a plan for change. Interesting that she mentions that point at the end about rebuilding and cutting red tape, because construction was the best part of the Q2 number. If you break down the Q2 growth of 0.3%, it was plus 0.4% services, plus 1.2% construction. Production, though, fell 0.3%, but better than expected. Decent numbers for the second quarter for the month of June, and an upward revision to April. Right, let's have a look at the weather.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The next few days look fairly settled and very warm, although most places won't be as hot as recently. It's muggy, but mostly fine now, although there are showers around, potentially torrential and thundery over the Northern Isles. There's fog in places too, while some northeastern and western coastal counties are rather murky. Cloud there will largely burn off this morning, leaving sunny spells for most. It'll stay mainly dry, but showers will develop mostly in the north and west. Thundery downpours are possible, especially over northeastern Britain.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
So to come here on the Breakfast Show, we're going to be reporting live from Alaska ahead of tomorrow's crunch talks between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump.
gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live. Joins us live all in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent. I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace. The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland. Catholics and Protestants now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19, religion's nothing.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back to The Breakfast Show. Well, coming up, we'll be speaking to the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, Andrew Griffith, about today's GDP figures. But first, let's just remind you of what the top stories are this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will arrive in London this morning. He'll meet with Sir Keir Starmer in Downing Street at around 9:30. The Prime Minister says a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine is viable. Donald Trump, meantime, has threatened severe consequences if Vladimir Putin fails to agree to a ceasefire after their meeting in Alaska tomorrow. His comment followed yesterday's virtual summit with European leaders. Students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland will receive A-level, T-level and B-Tech national results this morning. Authorities are predicting a record number of people will get into their first-choice university. The latest GDP figures showed that the UK economy grew by 0.3% in the second quarter. It compares to 0.7% in the first quarter of the year, but it was better than many people had forecast. It included a better than expected growth for June and an upward revision for April also. Let's turn back to the war in Ukraine and tomorrow's summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin from Anchorage. Our US correspondent James Matthews has this report.
Alaska, it's where east meets west. Beneath its mountain ranges, it's where Trump meets Putin. Just a few miles of water separate this corner of the United States from Russia. At the sharp end of the Cold War, Alaska has known confrontation across the sea. Missile bunkers speak of history past as modern history plays out. The Russian bear at the back door is back in the fold. Time and Trump have warmed the Cold War chill. Where he goes next, we're about to find out.
There will be very severe consequences, yes.
There would be severe consequences, said Donald Trump, if Putin doesn't agree to end the war. An F-15 marks the spot where he'll meet his Russian counterpart. Ahead of an unpredictable encounter at this US military base, European countries have laid down their red lines. Russia, they say, can't block Ukraine's path to the EU or NATO, and no ceasefire on Friday will mean fresh European sanctions. Donald Trump is making optimistic noises, but he's also stressing this may come to nothing. Playing down expectations plays to the man not at the table. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, uninvited and uneasy at the prospect of a deal struck in his absence that he can't accept.
I would like to have ceasefire.
Anna Yarova and her daughter Emilia are invested in the meeting down the road. They're Ukrainians, among 1,300 in Alaska, who sought refuge from their country's war.
The president of Ukraine wants to save the entire country of Ukraine, which makes sense. But I hope that President Trump will be able to have some positive influence. But I just don't know if that will be possible. I just have to hope. I have to.
You don't know if it will be possible. Why? What would be the... What's the concern?
This war has been going on for so long, and it's been so terrible that I don't know if the president of Russia will want to stop it.
It is a view that reflects reservations widely held around this summit. There is hope, albeit clouded by expectation. James Matthews, Sky News, in Anchorage, Alaska.
Much more, of course, building up to that all-important summit in Anchorage over the next 24 hours, and indeed building up to the meeting between Prime Minister Starmer and President Zelenskyy in Downing Street in the next few hours. But now let's speak to the Conservatives. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, Andrew Griffith, from West Sussex. A very good morning to you, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Firstly, your reaction to the GDP data, which was better than expected.
I don't know, it depends what your expectations were. It was a slowdown in the second quarter of the year. What it sort of means, Wilf, is we've had the unemployment figures, we've had the inflation figures, and it's pretty much confirming we're in a period of stagflation. That means the economy is not growing, but cost of living in ordinary people's weekly shop is going up at a much faster rate, about 10 times faster than the economy is growing. So we're all getting poorer. We've seen these huge borrowing figures from the Chancellor. The National Institute for Economic and Social Research has talked about a potential 50 billion black hole. And the one thing you know, particularly given the level of public debt we've already got in this country, we're borrowing just to pay the interest, is you can't tax your way out of this. So it really is a big moment for the Chancellor. We can't have any more of this talk about taxing, aspiration, taxing inheritance, driving more people overseas. It's time for a big reset, and that needs to be about public spending.
I mean, with all due respect, Andrew, that sort of tone to the data would have been fair last month, where in May we did see a decline, but June was much better than expected, strong you'd even say, at 0.4, 0.5%. April was revised upwards, and if you extrapolate the first half of the year, the annual rate is 2.2%, but the first half of the year is showing the UK growing at the fastest pace in the G7, and stagflation is a bit of a leap. We haven't got sharply rising unemployment. We haven't got elevated unemployment, even if the direction of travel might have changed recently. So, this month's data was a lot better than expected.
We should play those games of expectation. Look, you make some fair points, but you'll know the rate of inflation is running at twice the rate of the growth of the economy. That's not sustainable. We've now got unemployment, particularly amongst young people, even before the impact of things like the Employment Rights Bill, 300 pages of red tape, which every business and employer that you will speak to tells you that's having a damaging, chilling effect on employment. We've got A-level results today. We have wonderful, well-educated young people in this country who will either look for a job or look for a job after having gone to college. Youth unemployment, employment between people between 18 and 25, is now 11% getting on for 12%. There's a slow burn crisis in our public finances. So I'm not all doom and gloom. Any growth is better than no growth at all. But really, it's not a conversation about the sort of economy that we want to be when we're, as no doubt the Chancellor will be doing, bragging about 0.3% growth at a time when people will go down to the supermarket this weekend and they will see the cost of their shopping basket going up at a much faster rate.
Yeah, I don't think the tone of her statement was bragging, but either way, we can move forward from that part of the discussion. You mentioned it's A-level results day. What is your message to students across the country who some will get the results they've dreamt for, of course, some won't?
Results are just one part of, character, of opportunity. You and I both know that many of the most successful businesses, entrepreneurs, and people in other walks of life have pursued greatness, notwithstanding their grades. So congratulations to those that have got the grades that they want. For those that others, life is never a single path, and there's a bright future ahead for all. This is a wonderful country in which to make an opportunity. It's one reason why so many people want to come and live here, but it's also why it's such a tragedy when people decide that the best opportunities for them are overseas, because they don't feel that the government rewards ambition, aspiration, entrepreneurship. Those are all values that are really important to me, very important to the Conservative Party.
You've ran a huge business before you were in politics. Do you think sometimes, when people are in their 20s, for example, and companies are looking to hire, we look too closely at grades, or did you used to look at many other factors? What other factors did you focus on when hiring people?
you want character. And I always said, that ambition beats experience, right? If you've got the right mindset, if you've got the aptitude, that willingness, sometimes that is about, being, I mean, this is probably not very fashionable, but being the first into the office of a morning, just getting there, showing a real willingness to roll up your sleeves and muck in. Those are absolutely, to me, as important attributes as the credentialism of great grades. Well done for those that got them. I don't want to take anything away from that, but ultimately success is based on the combination of those factors.
Just finally, I wanted to ask you about the small boats crossings. Both Robert Jenrick and Chris Philp have travelled to northern France this week and tried to highlight, I think, that they think the French could be doing more. Where were those sorts of, I guess, eyeball-grabbing attempts, those clickbait-grabbing attempts when you were in power?
I think people did travel to both northern France, and I know people travelled to Rwanda to get the Rwanda returns deterrence scheme. It was, I think, it was, at that time, it was seen perhaps more by our political class as more novel than it ever was. It's a good scheme. It's a deterrent scheme. It's very much in the vein of the sort of thing that the government's trying to do now, belatedly, with its 17 in, 1 out return scheme. So I think in many ways the previous Conservative government was ahead of the time. It realised there was a crisis. It realised that, particularly with the legal system as it was and being hard to change through things like opposition in the House of Lords at that moment in time, that you really needed an effective deterrent. Now, I don't think you can put all of that on the French. I think there are some pull factors that made the UK a place where, economically or just rationally, unfortunately, if you get a foot on shore in the UK under the current legal system, it is too easy to stay and it can become a perceived meal ticket for life. That's a big pull factor, which is in the control of the government. It's one of the things that the Rwanda deterrent would have effectively dealt with, and it's still tragic that the first thing the Labour government did on taking office was cancel a scheme that was ready to go. It had been much delayed, but it was ready to go, and it would have dealt with a lot of this issue.
Andrew Griffith, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you. Mari's in Downing Street for us this morning, of course, awaiting the arrival of President Zelenskyy. Might get to that in just a moment. But Mari, first, I just thought I'd get your reaction, which we spoke about just there with Andrew Griffith, but also previously with the Education Secretary, to the data that is certainly better than what economists had expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there will be a small sigh of relief in the Treasury and in Number 10, both behind me this morning, when it comes to that GDP data. Is it extraordinary? No. Is it changing, the game? No. But it is positive, it is better than expected, and therefore Labour can push the narrative that actually they are fixing the foundations. That's the line they keep hearing, fixing the foundations, stabilising the economy. And one of the things that they always point to when it comes to what they believe is their positive record when it comes to the economy is the amount of stability and, to an extent, a bit of predictability, let's say, when it comes to financial decisions and things like financial, fiscal policy, tax policy, etc. They want to go absolutely nowhere near the likes of the actions of Liz Truss or anything else where there's any level of uncertainty or concern that might put off investors, that might make people slightly more wary, for instance, of lending money. And so actually what they're arguing is, yes, could it be better? Of course. But the main takeaway from what we're hearing from Labour this morning really is that actually this is going to be a slow process, but at least for now, there's no wild cards coming out. Everything is very steady, and once things have been steadied, which is what they say their first year in office, now the second year will be about really starting to ramp up that economic growth and actually starting to really have an impact on how rich or poor we all feel.
Mari, great stuff. Thanks so much. And, of course, Mari's there to await the arrival of President Zelenskyy. We'll be back out with Mari throughout the morning until that happens, expected around 9:30. We're going to take a very quick break here on The Breakfast Show. When we come back, we'll be talking to the Director of Policies at Universities UK, this A-level and T-level results day.
In the last 5 years, more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK.
Is it going to be viable for the future?
There are farmers from across the country that have brought Whitehall to an absolute standstill.
We have to protect our farmers because they produce the food that we eat.
You've got to keep hope because one day it's going to be okay.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
It's scary what's happening in the country.
It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale.
Having the police speak to us so starkly right in the middle of the riot showed just how serious the situation was. The water on board the barge contaminated with Legionella bacteria, an outbreak that was first revealed by Sky News. There have been questions for months over whether the support offered to asylum seekers on the bivvy is sufficient.
A cruel place to put human beings.
From busy cities to rural communities, we spend every day reporting on how big decisions impact real people. The last smoke and steam rises into the sky above Blast Furnace 4.
It just seems madness.
Lunchtime, and as the deliveries get busy, so do immigration.
When they make a crackdown like this, the messages on the WhatsApp group for the delivery drivers goes wild, and they all go to ground for a few hours.
They're helping terrified victims.
You've been a victim of a very common type of online crime known as sextortion.
We're making things better for people.
Stonehenge became the latest victim of Just Stop Oil.
Now I can say I've been to the orange Stonehenge.
Sky News, get the full story first, free, wherever you get your news.
I want to start the programme today with an aim, a story that I can't get out of my head. The campaign has now started. This is your chance. Tell people. This is the Politics Hub. It's not correct. The tax burden is projected to go up.
No, I am talking about the...
No, but I'm not. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous.
No one does care about us.
I'm really interested in that. On the Politics Hub, we like to push the boundaries. He's got the majority. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
Fire, shouts the commander. There's a dash to safety.
We've now got to wait inside the shelter to see if there is incoming.
I'm Deborah Hames, Sky Security and Defence Editor.
Should Russia's war with Ukraine escalate significantly, pilots like these could be called upon to go into combat for real.
Welcome back. Let's get more on the story that will be making talking points for tens of thousands of families as students will be receiving their A-level and T-level results this morning. Joining me now is Steph Harris, who's the Director of Policy at the advocacy group University UK. Thanks so much for joining me, Steph. What is the sort of headline piece of advice you've got for, gosh, everyone 10 minutes away from getting their results?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say congratulations to everybody who is receiving their A-level results, their T-level results, or their BTECs this morning. I hope it's going to be a day of celebration for lots of people. They should be really proud. Their teachers, parents and carers should also be really proud of them. Hopefully, they will have gotten the results that they were hoping for and got on into the university that they were hoping for. But my key message is if you're not in that position, don't panic. There's a lot of support available. There are people here at UCAS, where I am this morning, ready to talk to you on the phone about your options, and clearing is open for those individuals. So reach out and get support if you need it.
There's always so much debate about whether exams are the best way to test students. I wonder the extent, and that debate rages and has raged for many decades, and the strengths and weaknesses of the arguments can go up and down. I wonder whether AI strengthens the argument for exams once again, because it really then comes back to the students and you can't lean on these other resources that might be emerging.
So I think what's really important for universities is that they have a method that they're able to assess whether that student's going to be able to succeed in that university, and there are lots of ways of doing that. Exams like today's, the A-levels and the T-levels and the BTECs that individuals have taken, but also wider ways of assessing a performance. So if they have a kind of portfolio or performance-based subject. So there are lots of ranges of assessments, and they're all important, and of course they're all going to have to evolve and adapt to AI just like the rest of us are.
This isn't a question about university versus other kind of means of qualification, but rather within those systems, which courses are best to apply for? Do we have a mismatch in terms of courses that people apply for versus perhaps the courses that then best lead to jobs? Is there good analysis on that or not?
Yeah, so the kind of top line statistic on that is if you learn more, you tend to earn more. There will be variation based on subject and the types of jobs that people go into. And data on that is available on the Unistat's website and other places for students to look at if that's something that's important to them when they're considering their university choices. So there's lots of information out there, and students should be able to find it in a variety of places.
Do you have expectations about the overall level of grades across the country today?
So I think it's too early to tell. As you say, we'll find out in 10 minutes or so where things have ended up. We have seen so far a record number of 18-year-olds applying to university, which is a really great thing. And I hope that we'll see over the rest of today that universities across the UK are able to flex to meet that demand and support those students into university if they decide that's the right choice for them.
Just finally, in terms of that advice to those people that might not get their results, talk us through the clearing process and your thoughts towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. So clearing, first of all, it's important to say that clearing is there for everybody. It's not just for those who don't get their grades, but it is a key route for those who have just missed out on their offer. It's a process where applicants can phone up and be matched with the courses that are still available in the system. So if they find themselves in that position, then they can pick up the phone, talk to advisors here at UCAS. I would also encourage them to reach out to the university, either that they originally applied to or the one that they're now looking to study with, to talk to them about what their options are and to get the support and advice that they need.
Steph, thanks so much for joining us. Very much appreciated. Well, as you can see, Paul and Rachel have joined me around the set. And I was mocked earlier, Paul, for the day I got my results being over the telephone, not on the internet. So I brought you on to discuss this to make me feel a bit better.
When mine arrived by carrier pigeon in the
exactly.
late 1980s, yeah.
Do you remember the day still?
I do remember the day very clearly. I was I'd started travelling in the year out. I didn't get the results. I needed to go to university, and I looked around me at the gorgeous beach I was staring at and thought, well, that doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Yeah, and it took about 4 years to get to university, but I do remember. I remember my mother being more disappointed than I was.
I remember, do you know what? My dad was infuriating in and around both taking of exams and results. To the extent, I remember him saying ahead of exam results day, saying, yippee, exam results. And we're like, Dad, you just don't get it. Because things had always gone so well for him, do you know what I mean? It was a very frustrating sentiment ahead of it.
I have a child who is getting their results, or could get their results, in 6 minutes' time.
Could? Well, they definitely will then.
Well, yeah, but she's decided to do the old way. She's going to go in and wait till 9 o'clock till she can get the envelope. So that's going to make the next 66 minutes even longer for us.
Good luck. I mean, even more honoured that you're here today doing the GDP data for us.
Absolutely.
On that front. But gosh, good luck to absolutely everyone out there and to your daughter in particular. Of course, Rachel, we were dwelling earlier about that good news, bad news and how people can dwell on it all.
Yeah, I think very much so. It's one of those things where when you're in the moment and you've spent, your entire childhood working towards it, can feel like this moment of exams, it can feel hugely significant. But actually, it's just really about sort of celebrating the results that are good, commiserating about the results if they're not so great, enjoying it with your friends, having a plan afterwards, and just coming up with, you know, the option, because whatever happens, this is the stepping stone, isn't it, to later life, whether it's to university, to a job, you're going back again. You know, it's such a pivotal moment, and it is exciting, even if the results aren't quite what you were hoping for.
It is exciting, and I guess a lot of people will be celebrating together as well this evening, whatever the results. Do so responsibly, but have a good time. It's great. You bring everyone together. You don't drown your sorrows or elating. It's bring all the friends together before they go off to university. Right, we are almost out of time, so let's have a quick look at the weather.
The perfect climate, wherever the destination. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The next few days look fairly settled and very warm, although most places won't be as hot as recently. It's muggy, but mostly fine now, although showers are around, potentially torrential and thundery over the Northern Isles. There's fog in places too, while some northeastern and western coastal counties are rather murky. There will be some cloud burning off this morning, leaving sunny spells for most, and it'll be mainly dry, but showers will develop mostly in the north and the west. Thundery downpours are possible, especially over northeastern Britain.
The perfect climate, whatever the forecast. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Lots more still to come with us here on The Breakfast Show after a short break, and of course building up to that arrival in Downing Street by President Zelenskyy and to A-level results momentarily.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We know that they're coming from the south of the city where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides and it's moving this way.
A very good morning to you. It is A-level results day and hundreds of thousands of students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are about to open their envelopes to get their results right now. Let's get straight out to them. We've got our correspondents around the country for us. Anjum Pirbakos is in Bexley Heath Academy in South London. Shaman Freeman-Powell's at the North Birmingham Academy. Dan Whitehead is at the Clearing Centre at UCAS HQ in Cheltenham for us. But let's go to Anjum. First of all, Anjum, you are there with some students. Break it down for us.
So we're here in Bexley Heath Academy in South London. I'm literally just about to go over and speak to 3 students who are about to receive their results. So if you just come with me this way, they're about to collect their envelopes, and this will be the moment that they've been waiting for several years now, where all this hard work will hopefully have paid off and they'll have their future plans on the ready, all going on this opening of an envelope. So we've got, they're just receiving them now. Right, we've got Daniel, Nathan and Navi here, and they've just received their envelopes. So, Daniel, when you're ready, if you want to do that moment now and just share that with us. Nathan, how are you feeling? Okay, brilliant, yeah? Brilliant. Okay. Okay.
Wait, what?
You okay there?
Where are the grades? What is this? Oh, this is the price. Is that? Oh, it's a number. I got 3 A's.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing! Well done! That is fantastic news. Congratulations. Nathan, when you're ready.
It's a bit messy.
Deep breath, deep breath. Do you want some help?
No.
Are you okay?
Oh, wow. I got D star, D.
So all distinctions?
Yeah.
Did you do BTEC? That is amazing, fantastic news, Nathan. Congratulations. Navi, when you're ready.
I got A and 2 Bs.
Amazing, fantastic. Congratulations to all of you. You guys have done absolutely amazingly. And how do you feel right now?
I'm elated. I'm happy because when you put in like hard work, it's good to see like the result come out good.
Yeah, and what are your plans now? What are you thinking of going on to do?
I'm going to take my talents to Loughborough.
You're going to take your talents to Loughborough. I love that. Nathan, what about you?
I mean, Daniel couldn't have said it any better. You know, when you put in hard work, you know, you get the results that you want to. So, yeah.
And what are your plans now?
Right now, I think I'm going to Notts, but I'm going to see my other options through clearing.
So did you think that you weren't going to do as well as you have done?
Yeah, I've done better than I predicted.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. What an amazing outcome for you. Navi, what about you? What do we think your plans are going to be from here on?
I think I'll be going to King's College, but yeah.
And what are you planning to study at King's, do you know?
Physics, probably.
Amazing. Well, huge congratulations to all of you. You really have got amazing chances now and opportunities. I think definitely, let's give them a massive round of applause. Fantastic news. So happy for you. And we're just going to go back now to the studio. Thanks again so much for sharing this moment with us.
Indeed, thanks. And congratulations. There was rounds of applause here in the newsroom as well. Anjum, thanks for bringing that to us. Let's get to Shaman now. Shaman, gosh, a few of the students there, no doubt, watching that with their own nerves. 4 minutes they've had to digest their results.
Well, yeah, here at the EACT North Birmingham Academy, actually many of the students seem to have taken advantage of allying, as they're only just starting to trickle in now. But you may be able to see behind me that the exam papers are now outlaid, ready for the students to come and pick up their qualifications for A-levels and for some of the other technical courses too. You can also see there's a spread that's been laid out too, lots of cupcakes and balloons to celebrate the successes of around 50 students today that will be collecting their qualifications. Now, as I say, some students are only just arriving. They're about to head down into this hall and find out their results. I did catch up with a few of them earlier on outside the building, waiting to come inside. They told me they were very nervous, too nervous actually to go on camera, but shortly I will be meeting some of the students that will be collecting those results to find out how they feel.
Shaman, we will come back to you as and when some of them are filtered in and you're ready to bring, or they're ready, I guess, to share their moment with us. For now, thanks so much. Dan is at UCAS. Busy day there, Dan.
Yeah, busy day, Wilf, here. The phone lines have just opened for clearing. We'll come on to that in a moment. But let me just bring you some of the statistics we've just got from UCAS in terms of how many people have got into their first choices at universities. The figures just out in the last couple of minutes show that just over 255,000 18-year-olds have been accepted today, and that is up 4.7% on last year. Now, 82% of those 18-year-olds who've been accepted have got into their first choice. Now, that's the same proportion as last year. There is a record, actually, according to UCAS, that has been broken. In total, 439,180 applicants of all ages have been accepted into universities. Now, that's up 3.1% on last year. It's the highest number of placed students on results day on record. So those are the stats that we're getting. Just over 439,000 students getting a place of all ages, the highest number on record. Quick word on international students as well. The number of accepted international undergraduate students applying via UCAS is up compared to last year, 52,640. That's up 2.9%. The largest market, perhaps unsurprisingly, China. That's gone up 13% to just over 12,000 Chinese students accepted on UCAS university places. So that's the latest stats, a record being broken in terms of the overall, all ages, all domiciles, getting a place at a university here in the UK. Of course, there are many who are opening their emails, logging into the system, or indeed going to schools and colleges like we've been seeing just there, who perhaps aren't going to get the grades exactly that they want. And that is where the clearing system comes in. You can see behind me here, the team have already started answering via social media, via the phones. We can hear them chatting to students who are already calling in, trying to get advice about what to do next. There's around 27,000 places available, courses, spaces available, and the guys at UCAS are on the phones, ready to assist if those students didn't get exactly what they needed.
Dan, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. Back out with Dan later on in the programme. We can actually go back to Shaman now, and Shaman, I think, is now joined by some students.
I am, yes. I'm joined by two students that have come in bright and early to collect their results. We'll start with you, Amelina. How are you feeling about today? What are you expecting to receive?
So I'm expecting maybe A's for both my psychology and sociology, because I did BTech business, so I already know that I got distinction. But if I get BB for the subjects, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine.
That would be good.
Yeah.
And what about you, Fiona? What are you hoping for today?
I'm hoping for ABC, because then I'll get into Warwick, but I'll be fine with a BBB.
What subjects?
Drama, psychology and English literature.
Thank you. Well, should we get this going though? Should we open those results and find out how you did? You see hands shaking.
Yeah.
So go on, Amelina, share with us. What did you get?
It's okay. It's okay.
What are the results?
It's BB, I guess.
Okay. BB, how are you feeling about that?
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's good.
That's good. That's good. And what about you, Fiona?
I got a BCC. So,
okay. How are you feeling?
A little bit disappointed. I could have done better, but you can't change that right now. So, I mean, at least I've got my insurance to go on, which I know they've accepted me. So
that's your second choice, and where is that?
Worcester.
Worcester.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And as you say, the results are, you know, it's a big moment, but this is years of hard work, right? It's taken a lot to get to this point, and we know that COVID had a part to play as well over years. Have you found challenges in studying for your A-levels?
Not really. Maybe some bits, but like the teachers were mostly next to us, so it was fine.
So you had a lot of support then?
So we had a lot of support, so there was no need to like worry like, oh, I didn't get this, how am I going to do? So we just can ask teachers and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Fiona? What kind of challenges did you face?
Yeah, I've actually felt like very challenged in A-levels, mostly because like I don't think I would have been able to afford a tutor. I mean, I didn't get one, but I don't think I would have been able to because of COVID and because of just costs and everything. Some of my, majority of my teachers were really helpful, but there was only like one subject where I just didn't really feel like I got the help that I needed. But yeah, I think.
And it's a difficult transition, isn't it, from school going on to that sixth form and college? It's totally different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like the A-levels, like subjects are just way more, you know, harder than GCSEs. Well, for some are just the exact same, but yeah.
And before you go off to university or apprenticeships, what are your plans ahead of that? You've got a couple of weeks left, haven't you?
I'm going to go on a holiday. I'm going to go on a holiday, but like hopefully uni's going to be good. So hopefully you're going to like, you know, with the teachers, with the tutors, whatever they're called, hopefully we're going to get in a like good relationship as well. So hopefully it's going to be good.
That's amazing. And what about you? What are you most excited for?
Going out with friends mostly, just, you know, yeah, have a little peaceful holiday while I can.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for being brave enough to share your results on air, and congratulations. I know you've worked extremely hard, so well done. As you can see, 2 students have finally opened their results. We can see more students milling around behind me, so I'll go to catch up with them and find out how they've done.
Shimon, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. And congratulations again to all of the students, particularly those we featured live here on Sky News with, as Dan was saying, a record number getting into their first choice university. Now let's turn to another developing story. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will arrive in London this morning to meet with Sir Keir Starmer in Downing Street. That's expected in the next hour or so. Mari's there for us. And Mari, of course, lots of them to discuss. The question is the extent to which they can influence the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key question, isn't it? Will it matter? Will it make a difference? Yesterday we had those all-important meetings between European leaders, between them and also the US administration, Trump and JD Vance, and then after that the coalition of the willing 30 nations on that call. Huge amounts of diplomacy and, to an extent, gentle pressure on the US administration to acknowledge some of the real concerns that Zelensky and Ukraine have when it comes to any possible peace deal between Russia and Ukraine ahead of that summit in Alaska tomorrow. What we know so far is President Zelensky will be arriving in Downing Street, be greeted by Keir Starmer about 9:30 or so. All-important moment outside the front door, of course, we love. And then they'll go inside. Now, we haven't been given much of a briefing on what's going to be discussed, but of course, we know what is going to be discussed. The difficulty, I suppose, for the UK and Keir Starmer in his position is finding a way to try and continue to get the US to listen to us and Ukraine, but also finally not putting so much pressure on the US administration that we end up alienating them. And so there's a really, really fine balance to be struck. So far, the words that we're getting out of Number 10, out of Keir Starmer, out of the government the past couple of days are what we're continually hearing about backing Ukraine, solidarity with Ukraine, no decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine, no forced deals when it comes to borders. And I think what's really, really interesting is tomorrow will really show whether the European leaders, whether Keir Starmer as one of them, have managed to persuade or bring Trump slightly over to their way of thinking or not. And so how effective those meetings will really be proven tomorrow. The difficulty for Zelensky, of course, he's here today, but of course the most important thing is he's not there tomorrow.
Mari, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. We'll be back out with Mari throughout the morning, awaiting that arrival in about an hour or so's time. Now, GDP figures have been released this morning, and they're better than expected. We've heard from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride.
The numbers are welcome, and importantly, GDP per person is also up. So that means more money in the pockets of working people. Look, I recognise we're just a year into this government. There is more to do to ensure that working people in all parts of Britain are better off. But these numbers show that our economy is growing. We are producing more, and that's good for living standards and good for businesses across our country as well.
What we're seeing actually is growth this quarter at about under half the rate that we had in the first quarter. So we've got a slowing growth picture. Now, why has that happened? That's because of what the government has done, taxing the living daylights out of businesses, borrowing and spending lots of money, keeping inflation higher than it would otherwise have been, with interest rates being higher. And of course, we're heading into the autumn now to a budget which will no doubt see some extensive tax rises, which will be further damage to our economy.
Well, Paul's here to break down the numbers for us, and they were better than expected.
They were, and as well as probably a little bit more spring in the Chancellor's step. The expectation was that the second quarter of the year, would show growth of just 0.1% after 0.7%. We can see in the chart here. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Microphone.
Where is your mic?
Where's my mic? Let's look at the chart.
There we go.
While we find my microphone, we can see the growth on the right-hand side of the screen, slowing. It is slowing on the first quarter, but it is better than expected, and it's been driven by a bounce back in services, and perhaps the gap between those two figures a little bit explained by a lot of activity. Trade activity was brought forward because of the arguments about tariffs being imposed. So a lot of people doing importing did it in the first quarter of the year. Stamp duty changes were coming in. Nevertheless, the counter, as we've heard from Mel Stride, from the Conservatives, is that decline, that slowdown, coincides with the introduction of the new employment tax, which kicked in April, and they would say that this is self-inflicted by the government. There is a little argument going on about the underlying numbers, in which, while the Tories would talk about, quotes, a death spiral in the economy, Labour sources are happy to point to the fact that per capita GDP in the first half of this year is exactly the same as it was in the first half of last year when the Conservatives were in control. So when you get these nuanced numbers, claiming the credit politically clearly is something both sides want to do. But it is a better than expected picture, and given the circumstances, given the hole in the public finances, given the forecast that inflation is going to increase and unemployment, I'm not surprised the Chancellor is looking on the bright side.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in terms of 1 month or even one quarter's data doesn't make a trend. Obviously, quarterly, the trend is worrying. It's less bad than it was expected, but it's a slowdown compared to the first quarter. But monthly data, the trend, again, shorter term, and we need to see it continue, is pretty good. You know, May was a lot worse than June was.
Absolutely.
It's turned around there.
It was 0.4%. Let me see if I can point to some of the factors that helped that increase. Information and comms were the services sector that grew the fastest. There's also an increase in health and social work spending. Now, one of the, perhaps people don't think public spending is a big part of the output of the economy, and that suggests the NHS is working harder. And if you look at some analysis of these numbers today, they all point to the fact that a big chunk of this increase in GDP, the largest part, is through the public sector. And what people really want to see is the private sector bouncing back and starting to be more active. And of course, the private sector is that which is disproportionately affected by the tax increases. But there is some positive news in here. It's how it will be sustained. I mean, on the most positive reading, if you take the first half of the year, the UK, on published figures so far, the UK is the fastest growing economy in the G7 on the first half of this year. They would like to see more growth. For a government that promised growth, frankly, for a Chancellor who has got a hole in the public finances, need as much revenue flowing in through the Exchequer as possible. And these numbers, at this rate, are not going to cut it. There's going to have to be a big pickup if it's going to change the fundamentals of her budget.
Paul, great stuff. Thanks so much. Right, let's go back to that top story. A-level results have been coming out in the course of the last 20 minutes or so. More than 400,000 students have been accepted onto degree courses, and we can now speak to UCAS Chief Executive, Dr. Joe Saxton, who's in Cheltenham. Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Saxton. Your initial reaction to all of these results coming in?
Well, it's an absolutely brilliant day to be a student. As you say, we're seeing record numbers of people accepted to university and a record number, a staggering 250,000, 250,000 UK 18-year-olds have woken up today with that all-important accept to university course.
What is the process now for those students? If they've been accepted, they know immediately? I presume it's a slightly more complicated process if they haven't quite got their grades.
So if they've met the terms of their offer, their university's accepted them, they will have had an email from UCAS at 8 a.m. that has told them that. That's all they need to do. For those people where things didn't quite go according to plan, or people who hadn't yet thought of applying to university and are watching the coverage and thinking, oh, I'd like to do that too, it's absolutely not too late. You can see some of my fantastic colleagues behind me talking to students live on the phone now. They stand ready to serve and support anyone who wants to still explore their university options. And there are around 27,000 course options available, so there's loads of choice.
And are there loads of places available?
There's lots and lots of places. If you want to go to university, there are absolutely places. There are courses available right now in subjects ranging from medicine through to medieval history, so there is a lot of choice, yes.
If somebody has missed out on their first choice, what's your advice between going for an alternative choice now or taking more time, a year out, or retaking exams to try and get back to that first choice?
Well, my advice is that students generally have done a lot of research. What we can see here at UCAS is that normally half of all of those students who take a place through clearing are going back to one of the 5 that they originally made an application to. So what I would say to those people at home in that position is reflect, reconnect with those original choices you made, talk to the universities that you visited. Don't just, throw a dart blindfolded. Trust your instincts, trust your research, think of it as your curated playlist, and go back to one of those 5 that you already have engaged with. I say that because what our data shows is that where students have had a longer relationship with an institution, they're most likely to turn up and enrol and ultimately to graduate.
What's your analysis as to the courses matching up to the job opportunities today versus a decade or so ago? Are we improving on that measure, or does it not really matter and degrees are adaptable to jobs?
Well, I think the students are really savvy, and we can see them in terms of the changing trends of the subjects they're choosing in their university applications. That's shifting over the years. So there's an increase over the last 5 years, really, towards all of those subjects that might be called STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, computer science related. There's definitely a trend in that direction, and that's obviously students really thinking about those potential careers that they're really interested in, but also thinking about what employers are likely to want.
Dr. Saxton, it's a busy day ahead for you. We better let you get back to it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about the wildfires across southern Europe. At least 3 people have been killed and thousands evacuated. And Spain is now asking for help from neighbouring countries. Rachel's here to tell us a little bit more about the scale of these fires.
Yeah, and they are huge. They are continuing to blaze right across southern Europe. A huge number of countries have suffered a huge number of wildfires, and we know that firefighting efforts really starting to be stretched very thin, despite assistance from other nations and coming in from the European Union as well. And you're right, Spain, and we can see some of the pictures here from Spain now of firefighters desperately trying to get any amount of water, of liquid, onto the flames to try and battle against that awful smoke. Local people as well, volunteers, not in any protective equipment there, just doing their best to try to protect their homes, their land, really struggling. And we know that Spain have asked for more firefighters and 2 Canadair planes. These are the water bombing aircraft that sadly are becoming more and more needed as we see wildfires increasing in timing across the world. These help fight back the flames, and we know that in Spain a volunteer firefighter died from severe burns, several people hospitalised, and many thousands have had to be evacuated. And this isn't over. We know that they've had temperatures of up to 45 degrees, but the heat wave actually could continue at least until Monday, so huge problems still there, hence why they're asking for more help. But Portugal as well, seeing huge numbers of wildfires. Albania, seen large numbers of evacuations. Turkey as well, a forestry worker died yesterday while responding to a wildfire in the southern region. And actually Turkey have been battling severe fires since late June. So this has been going on throughout the summer, and now 18 people in that country have been killed. So a huge issue there. And according to Reuters, some 1,700 square miles worth of land throughout Europe have been affected by wildfire at some point this summer, which is a staggeringly higher number than we're used to seeing. But of course, we know that scientists have warned climate change is making Mediterranean summers far hotter, far drier, which once a fire starts makes it much more difficult to control.
Rachel, great stuff. Thanks so much, Rachel Venables there. We're going to have a quick look at the weather.
A bright start and always a warm welcome. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The next few days look fairly settled and very warm, although most places won't be as hot as recently. It's muggy, but mostly fine now, although there are showers around, potentially torrential and thundery over the Northern Isles. There's fog in places too, while some northeastern and western coastal counties are rather murky. Cloud there will be largely burning off this morning, leaving sunny spells for most. It'll be mainly dry, but showers will develop, mostly in the north and west. Thundery downpours are possible.
A bright start and always a warm welcome. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
So to come here on The Breakfast Show, we're going to be getting the latest views from Ukraine ahead of tomorrow's crunch talks between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump.
App gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live. Joins us live all in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's Senior Ireland Correspondent. I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace. The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland. Catholics and Protestants now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19, religion's nothing.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back to The Breakfast Show. Well, coming up with Volodymyr Zelenskyy visiting Downing Street this morning, we'll be discussing what we might expect from Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska tomorrow. But first, a reminder of our top stories this morning. Students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have received their A-level, T-level and B-Tech national results this morning. More than 400,000 students have been accepted onto university courses, and a record number of people have got their first choice place. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will arrive in London this morning. He'll meet Sir Keir Starmer at Downing Street at 9:30. The Prime Minister says a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine is viable. Donald Trump, meantime, has threatened severe consequences if Vladimir Putin fails to agree a ceasefire after their meeting in Alaska tomorrow. His comment followed yesterday's virtual summit with European leaders. For more on that all-important summit, we have this report from Anchorage from our US correspondent, James Matthews.
Alaska, it's where east meets west. Beneath its mountain ranges, it's where Trump meets Putin. Just a few miles of water separate this corner of the United States from Russia. At the sharp end of the Cold War, Alaska has known confrontation across the sea. Missile bunkers speak of history past as modern history plays out. The Russian bear at the back door is back in the fold. Time and Trump have warmed the Cold War chill. Where he goes next, we're about to find out.
There will be very severe consequences, yes.
There would be severe consequences, said Donald Trump, if Putin doesn't agree to end the war. An F-15 marks the spot where he'll meet his Russian counterpart. Ahead of an unpredictable encounter at this US military base, European countries have laid down their red lines. Russia, they say, can't block Ukraine's path to the EU or NATO, and no ceasefire on Friday will mean fresh European sanctions. Donald Trump is making optimistic noises, but he's also stressing this may come to nothing. Playing down expectations plays to the man not at the table. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, uninvited and uneasy at the prospect of a deal struck in his absence that he can't accept.
I would like to have ceasefire.
Anna Yarova and her daughter Emilia are invested in the meeting down the road. They're Ukrainians among 1,300 in Alaska who sought refuge from their country's war.
The
president of Ukraine wants to save the entire country of Ukraine, which makes sense. But I hope that President Trump will be able to have some positive influence. But I just don't know if that will be possible. I just have to hope. I have to.
You don't know if it will be possible. Why? What would be the... What's the concern?
This war has been going on for so long, and it's been so terrible that I don't know if the president of Russia will want to stop it.
It is a view that reflects reservations widely held around this summit. There is hope, albeit clouded by expectation. James Matthews, Sky News, in Anchorage, Alaska.
Well, as we mentioned, Volodymyr Zelenskyy due to arrive in Downing Street in just about an hour for talks with Prime Minister Keir Starmer ahead of that all-important summit tomorrow that James was just reporting ahead of. Let's talk now to the Ukrainian MP, Alexander Mereshko. Alexander, thanks so much for joining us. Are you pleased that President Zelensky's had this meeting yesterday, a virtual meeting with European leaders, this meeting today with Prime Minister Starmer, or overall disappointed that he's not going to be there with Trump and Putin tomorrow?
Well, first of all, it's good news that European leaders and President Zelenskyy finally had this virtual talk with President Trump. And it's a good move on the eve of the summit between President Trump and the Kremlin dictator. What President Trump said after this meeting sounds encouraging, but unfortunately, taking into consideration all previous history and previous experience, I remain to be skeptical. I don't know for how long President Trump will remain under this positive impression from this virtual meeting. And unfortunately, risks are too high stemming from this summit between Trump and Putin.
Do you fear for the worst? Do you fear that Ukraine's going to be forced into a deal that they don't want to take?
I'm prepared for the worst case scenario, but I think that the most realistic scenario is, and under the circumstances it's not that bad, that there will be no tangible outcome, that we will have the repeat of the history when Putin will say something, yes, I agree to the ceasefire, to your proposal, Mr. President, but, and then we'll follow the same old story, the same old ultimatum, and Putin hasn't changed a bit. He hasn't abandoned his ultimate goal to destroy Ukraine. So, and Trump will not impose severe consequences or strict sanctions. So we will have the usual stuff, the usual rerun of the previous history. This is the most realistic scenario, but I want to be proven wrong.
If we fast forward, and there's an awful lot, of course, to get through to even get to this point, are you worried that there won't be any type of peacekeeping force, military presence in Ukraine from the West once there is a ceasefire in place? Does that now seem much, much more unlikely for Ukraine?
Well, let's imagine for a moment that there is a ceasefire. I really doubt that the things are moving in this direction, but for the hypothetical kind of case, yes, if there is ceasefire. The key question is what can deter Putin from attacking Ukraine again? What in his eyes, in his minds, will be a reliable deterrent to prevent his new attack? At the moment, I know only one security guarantee, which is NATO membership for Ukraine. As for other alternative security guarantees like presence of foreign troops, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure whether it's reliable enough deterrent to stop Putin.
Really interesting to get your perspective, Alexander. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Alexander Moresco there joining us. Let's continue this discussion. And joining us now is the former UK Defence Attaché to Moscow and prior to that to Kiev, John Foreman. John, great to have you with us this morning. Are Starmer and Zelensky just bystanders to the all-important summit tomorrow?
I think it was important yesterday that the Europeans spoke with one voice, apart from Hungary. And I think it was also good that the Europeans then spoke to Trump and got their message across. So I think yesterday the sort of diplomatic speed dating was important. But ultimately, the proof will be in the pudding on Friday. And of course, Zelensky won't be in the room. So there is risks, as the MP was saying, Vadim, that a deal will be struck or could be struck over Ukraine's head, which will obviously be unacceptable. And then the situation, the conflict will continue.
You obviously spent a lot of time in Moscow. What's your take as to whether or not Putin even showing up to this meeting is actually some kind of concession from him, or is it victory for him?
I mean, I don't think it's a concession. I think, what does Putin want? Putin wants to make Russia a great power again. He wants Russia back at the top table. He wants to be seen alongside the American president. He wants to restart bilateral relationships with the United States over the head of the Europeans. He wants to increase Russian power at the expense of European power, and he wants to subjugate Ukraine. And I don't think his position has changed one iota. And I think any messaging coming out of the Kremlin ahead of this meeting has been pretty consistent, that they see the Europeans in this sort of peace track yesterday as a distraction from the main effort, which is meeting Trump on Friday.
What's your expectation on the US side? Do you think President Trump will stick to what European leaders have asked him to stick to?
Well, I think he'd be informed and he'd listen to what they said closely. I think people were delighted. I think that Trump seemed to align with the position that Trump can't make unilateral concessions of Ukrainian land to Russia. But I think yesterday, and this morning after yesterday's sort of hiatus, was based on where we were a week ago. Trump is being non-committal, threatening severe consequences. A ceasefire seems far away. Europe is threatening sanctions and demanding security guarantees. The unilateral surrender of territory is off the agenda, but there's still talk about territory, and Putin's unmoved. So I think, expectations, as Vadim and everybody's saying, have been lowered for Friday. It's not going to be peace in our time. I think it's a step towards a further process.
And just finally on this point about territory, is it inevitable that there will be some kind of deal that leads to some amount of Ukrainian territory staying in Russia's hands, or is it realistic for the Ukrainians to wish to eject Russia entirely from their land?
Well, it's unrealistic to expect Ukraine to be able to recapture its 2022 borders or its 2014 borders. And I think that was in the declaration that, the starting point for any negotiations is the current front line. I think, there will be some form of peaceful land deal, but I think we should also avoid fixating on Ukrainian villages in the Donbass. We should look at the wider picture. What Putin wants is still to subjugate Ukraine, is to have an enduring stake of Russia in Ukrainian affairs, is to determine Ukraine's domestic and foreign policy and also its destiny towards Europe. So I think land for peace, I've said for a year, I think that's the most likely scenario, but it can't be at the expense of handing over bits of Ukraine, which Russia's never managed to occupy.
John Foreman, as always, a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, tomorrow's Trump-Putin summit, of course, will focus on the leaders, but it's those on the ground in Ukraine who are most impacted by the long-running war. Analysis by Sky's data and forensics team has revealed an increase in Russian drone attacks against Ukrainian emergency service vehicles and first responders. Our international correspondent Alex Rossi has this report.
A Russian drone fires at a petrol station in Kherson in eastern Ukraine, right on the front line. When a fire engine reaches the scene, it too is attacked. A so-called double-tap strike. Emergency services deliberately targeted by the Russian military. And this incident wasn't isolated. Sky News has identified 82 attacks on emergency vehicles since January 2024, using official statements, Russian drone footage that we verified, and videos posted on social media. And things have been getting worse. Strikes on emergency vehicles have been higher in summer, but this July was the highest yet, with 16 attacks that month alone. This tactic may be aimed at degrading Ukrainian civilian capability and morale, but experts say it's also a breach of international law. A 2024 report from the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said any Russian double-tap strikes intended to kill or injured first responders would constitute deliberate attacks on civilians, a war crime. We mapped the strikes, revealing that between 2024 and 2025, they've been concentrated in cities near the front line in eastern Ukraine. Attacks on emergency service vehicles were especially high in Kherson, where Russian and Ukrainian forces are only separated by the Dnipro River.
We are being hunted. Because of this, we removed all branding from our vehicles so they would look like civilian ones.
This rise in strikes on rescuers has come as Russia increases its drone attacks across the country. In July, Russia launched its largest ever drone strike against Ukraine. Experts say that this campaign of violence aims to overwhelm Ukrainian air defences and erode civilian morale with persistent nightly attacks. In response to our questions about Russia's attacks on emergency services, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, responded, saying, "The Russian armed forces have never regarded Ukrainian civilian population as a target. All strikes are directed exclusively at military or military-industrial assets." President Trump responded to Russia's renewed drone offensive, expressing growing frustration at President Putin. But that hasn't stopped them arranging to meet face-to-face. Despite the shifting tactics on the battlefield, Trump's mood appears to be changing. As the two leaders prepare to meet in Alaska, the talk of peace may be growing louder, but the reality on the ground could not be more different, with attacks intensifying. Alex Rossi, Sky News.
Much more build-up to come, of course, on those important Ukraine-Russia war-related meetings this morning in Downing Street, tomorrow in Anchorage, to come here on Sky News Breakfast. After this next break, we're going to have more on the A-level results that have crossed in the last hour.
In the last 5 years, more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK.
Is it going to be viable for the future?
There are farmers from across the country that have brought Whitehall to an absolute standstill.
We have to protect our farmers because they produce the food that we eat.
You've got to keep hope because one day it's going to be okay.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
It's scary what's happening in the country.
It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale.
Having the police speak to us so starkly right in the middle of the riot showed just how serious the situation was. The water on board the barge contaminated with Legionella bacteria, an outbreak that was first revealed by Sky News.
There have been questions for months over whether the support offered to asylum seekers on the Bivvy is sufficient.
A cruel place to put human beings.
From busy cities to rural communities, we spend every day reporting on how big decisions impact real people. The last smoke and steam rises into the sky above Blast Furnace 4.
It just seems madness.
Lunchtime, and as the deliveries get busy, so do immigration.
When they make a crackdown like this, the messages on the WhatsApp group for the delivery drivers goes wild, and they all go to ground for a few hours.
They're helping terrified victims.
You've been a victim of a very common type of online crime known as sextortion.
We're making things better for people.
Stonehenge became the latest victim of Just Stop Oil.
Now I can say I've been to the orange Stonehenge.
Sky News, get the full story first, free, wherever you get your news.
I want to start the programme today with a name, a story that I can't get out of my head. The campaign has now started. This is your chance. Tell people. This is the Politics Hub. It's not correct. The tax burden is projected to go up.
No,
but I'm not. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous.
No one does care about us.
I'm really interested in that. On the Politics Hub, we like to push the boundaries. He's got the majority. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
Fire, shouts the commander. There's a dash to safety.
We've now got to wait inside the shelter to see if there is incoming.
I'm Deborah Hames, Sky's security and defence editor.
Should Russia's war with Ukraine escalate significantly, pilots like these could be called upon to go into combat for real.
Welcome back. Well, as we've been reporting, it's A-level results day today. Here's some of the reactions we've seen so far.
I got 3 A's.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing!
I got D star, D.
So all distinctions?
Yeah.
Did you do BTEC? That is amazing, fantastic news, Nathan. Congratulations.
I got A and 2 B's.
Amazing, fantastic, congratulations. It's a BB, I guess.
Okay. BB, how are you feeling about that?
It's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, Shaman's able to join us now live from the North Birmingham Academy. Shaman, have you been seeing more students come in and get their results and hopefully the results they wanted?
Yes, there have been more students that have been trickling in throughout the course of this morning. The head teacher has explained to me, though, that now a lot of the students get their results emailed to them from 8 a.m. this morning, which means many of them aren't coming in into the colleges or the sixth forms to collect those results. So there's less of a buzz and an atmosphere that you would see in other years. However, there have been around 30 students or so that have collected their results today. I spoke to a few of them earlier about about how they felt. Vast majority of them were happy. The others were still confident they would get into a university. There were a few students that I spoke to who were working and spoke to me about time management and how that can also have an impact on results too. But by and large, happy students here and happy teachers too, who say that they are super relieved by the results that their students have received. I am hoping to speak to Owen, who is about to open his results now. He's a little bit nervous about doing it live on camera. Have you opened your results yet, Owen? Have you? Yeah? How are you feeling? Tell me how you did.
I'm really happy, yeah. I needed AAB to get in, and I got A-star AB.
That's
so I'm really
incredible. Happy. Well done. Honestly, you must feel so proud. I'm guessing you worked really hard, didn't you, to get those results? Tell me a little bit about that and the effort that went into it.
Yeah, so it was a lot of effort. I had lots of support of my teachers the whole time, just always keeping me working hard, always there to give me support, extra help on the mark and everything. So I'm really glad. This is a bit of a team effort, and yeah, I'm really happy with how I've done.
And it is such an important moment, isn't it? Now you get to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life, and that could change as well. But what are you hoping for in the near future?
Well, I'm studying a maths course at the University of Nottingham. And then, I don't know, I'm just going to see how that goes and see what kind of careers open up to me as I'm doing that.
Do you have any idea what kind of career you'd like to pursue?
No, I'm hoping to find that out while I'm at uni.
And you have so much time to figure that out, honestly. And what are you looking forward to for the rest of the day? How do you think your family are going to react to your results?
Well, I mean, I guess they'll be kind of happy. I think I'll just go out for dinner or something and just take it easy, yeah? Make the most of it.
Take it easy, relax, stress and the pressure is off slightly for the moment, right? Congratulations, well done. As I say, so see a round of applause there for Owen and his results. It's lovely. As I say, many of the students are happy. This has been years worth of stress, of working extremely hard, some of them alongside part-time jobs as well. So it's a moment of relief for many of the students here at the North Birmingham Academy.
Siobhan, great stuff, and congrats to Owen, congrats to all of the students thus far. Well, let's get out to Anjum, because Anjum's in Bexley-Heath Academy, South London, and been capturing the mood there for us throughout the morning. And Anjum, no doubt more results rolling in.
So we've had a steady stream of students this morning coming in and collecting their results, and there's been an array of outcomes. We've had some students who are absolutely elated at what the outcomes have been for them, and they've got their first place choice at university, and they're absolutely ecstatic and happy to share that news with their family and friends. We've had some students who've actually overachieved what they were predicted, which is a really, really fantastic situation to be in. And those students are going through the process of clearing, but in a really positive way. They're looking at how they can further options and opportunities using that clearing platform on UCAS, and they're doing something called an adjustment. And they've set up a room here at the Bexley-Heath Academy specifically to help and support those students who want to decide to do something possibly different from their original choices. And alongside those students, we've also had some students who weren't as happy and possibly didn't get the results that they wanted originally, but they also have got options, and we've got staff here on hand that are providing that absolutely necessary and vital support, helping these young people decide some really, really important, make some really important decisions today as they decide what they're going to do for the future and for the foreseeable.
Anjum, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. Anjum Pirbakos there for us. Well, Rachel and Paul's still here. By the way, Paul just got a phone call. And so I was saying to him, get off set and take it, because you're waiting for your daughter's results. Turns out it was the boss, so I said, no, stay here.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of our colleagues who we can deal with later. So I am waiting for...
If the phone goes and it's your family, walk off straight away.
I will, but I think we need to send Anjum or Shimon to my daughter's school, and maybe they can ask my daughter what results she's got, because she hasn't told her parents yet.
Well, she doesn't have to. If you're watching, you take your time, and, you know, but gosh, it's a tense moment. And I have to say, just putting all that together, firstly, congratulations to every single student, but, I mean, particularly those that are willing to talk about it so soon on air, live, some of them. I mean, God, I literally have been, like, so tense watching it unfold.
I mean, as a reporter, I've done this year in, year out. It's quite nice to actually be on this side, but I do miss that sort of buzz of speaking to kids. But honestly, the ones who agree to speak on camera, who agree to open that results knowing that it might not be what they want. I mean, it's a really brilliant thing for them to do, and it's just such an incredible cohort of young people. And, you know, to be able to take a bit of disappointment on the chin and say, well, you know, maybe that was a girl earlier who brilliantly just sort of said, well, you know, maybe could have worked a bit harder, but it's still good results, got into her second choice. You know, fantastic work.
Absolutely. And still also interesting to hear how some of them choose to celebrate this evening, quiet evening, going out with friends. I'm quite sort of impressed that Owen there, I think his name was, who got great results. He had a quiet evening. I'm not sure I would have chosen that after.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating, whatever the results are, I'm not anticipating there'll be a quiet evening involving my daughter. The hard work, the pressure that is, we talk about it a lot, the pressure on this cohort, this generation, but in the education system, it is transformed from when I was at school doing these exams, and I suspect when you were as well. And we place an enormous amount of the fact we're all there, broadcasters are there, the focus on these results is enormous. And they are an important moment, and they're a gateway to higher education. But I think we all probably know from our own experiences, they don't necessarily set the path for the rest of your life. They're an important moment, but they're not make or break. And it's important, I suspect, particularly for those who don't do as they might have hoped, to remember that there's plenty of opportunity.
And Paul, you'll know this with your daughter's experience, but we're years on, thankfully, now. But the pandemic really, really affected this last 5, and probably next 5 years worth of graduating students.
Absolutely. This cohort lost most of year 7, I think I'm right in saying, first and second year, and were impacted in all kinds of ways that I don't think we'll know fully. Well, hopefully some of them will go on to research the impact of the pandemic, but they have, well, they didn't miss exams. They have borne an awful lot, and so it's great to see them smiling. With good news or bad, absolutely.
Do you know what one thing that shows the sign of the times? Obviously, most kids don't send letters anymore. They're not very good at opening envelopes. Forget what's the content of it. They really took their time. So, what's this? It's a physical thing to open.
De-skilling analogue basics.
Which added to the pressure I couldn't watch. Anyway, it's been great stuff, great coverage throughout. And again, congrats to all of the students getting their results today. And we're going to have much more coverage of that. Build up as well to President Zelenskyy in Downing Street. And next hour, we'll be joined by David Seaman and Jamie Redknapp to preview the new Premier League season. Don't go anywhere.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We know that they're coming from the south of the city, where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford, and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock. It's A-level results day, and hundreds of thousands of students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland have got their results.
I'm here in Bexley Heath Academy in South London, where all morning students have been receiving their A-level results.
And I'm here at the North Academy in Birmingham to find out how students are feeling.
Plus, President Zelenskyy goes to Downing Street. He'll be greeted personally by the Prime Minister when he arrives this hour.
I'm here in Downing Street as we await President Zelenskyy, who'll be meeting with Keir Starmer right at that door behind me ahead of that all-important summit in Alaska tomorrow.
Well, a very good morning to you. It is A-level results day. Hundreds of thousands of students in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are finding out their grades over the course of just the last hour. And here is some of the reaction we've had over the last hour as students have got their results.
I got 3 A's.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing!
I got D star, D.
So all distinctions?
Yeah.
Did you do BTEC? That is amazing, fantastic news, Nathan. Congratulations.
I got A and 2 B's.
Amazing, fantastic, congratulations.
It's BB, I guess.
Okay. BB, how are you feeling about that?
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's
that's good.
A maths, B chem and B physics.
That's fantastic. How are you feeling?
It could have been better, but at the end of the day, as long as I got in uni, it's fine.
Well, we've got full team coverage for you of A-level results day. Anjan Pier-Bakos is in Bexley Academy in South London. Shaman Freeman-Powell is in Birmingham for us. And Dan Whitehead is in UCAS headquarters in Bristol. I think we're going to go to Anjum. Is Anjum able to join us? Maybe not. Maybe we should. Yes, Anjum is able. She can hear us. Anjum, let's get to you first. Break down the mood there where you are.
Hi, so we're in Bexley Heath Academy in South London, and we're just going to go over and speak to some students now who have actually just received their A-level results this morning. So, hi, if you just wanted to quickly have a chat with us, how are we feeling? So,
feeling happy.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us how you're feeling and what you've done and what subjects you've done and what you're planning to do.
So I did IT, I did business, and I got good grades, so I'm happy about that.
And what are you planning to do next?
Planning to do software engineering.
And have you applied at university already and got a place?
Yeah, I have.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Greenwich.
Amazing, fantastic. And have you told your friends and family the good news?
Oh, I'm about to when I come back. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what about yourself?
I'm doing Westminster, University of Westminster, studying software engineering.
Fantastic. And are you happy today?
I am, yes. I'm very happy, yeah.
And what are your plans and how are you going to celebrate today?
Probably going to surprise my mum and dad. But I mean, they already expect me to be good, and of course I'll prove that to them. So.
Thanks so much for sharing this moment with us. It's fantastic.
You
Congratulations to you both. Fantastic results for all of you. So there again, some more students who have received their A-level results today, really happy with their outcomes, have got the chances to go off to study what they want at their chosen universities and are about to go off and share that news with their friends and family and probably have a bit of a breather and take some time now to de-stress, because this whole process can be quite stressful for the young people that are receiving their results today. And we've seen this morning that there have been some students who have overachieved, some of them have not done as well, but the support's in place for them at the school, where students have been able to have the support that they need to make the right choices, make the decisions, using the information available to them, with staff available to them, and really making the right choices as they move forward into the next part of their educational journey.
Anjum, great stuff. Thanks so much for that. And we're going to be back out with Anjum at 1:30 when we get the data on the overall national results in terms of grades. So let's go to Shaman now. Again, in North Birmingham Academy. Shaman, one thing that's been quite interesting to me is it seems like all the students are gathering on their own, not with their parents for these moments. Or is that just the parents more camera shy?
Yeah, well, I think what's been quite striking to me is the fact that many of the students seem to have checked their emails this morning rather than travelling into the college to collect their results. Some of them wanting to stay at home so that they can open that email with their parents. Others, though, that have decided to come into the college or sixth form, it means that they have that support, don't they, of their peers, of fellow students that they can speak about their results with. But I want to show you behind me, because you can see here that the staff at the North Birmingham Academy really have put on a spread, and I am shocked because the students have barely touched any of the croissants or the cupcakes. That could be a sign of the nerves that they were feeling ahead of opening those envelopes earlier, and that's something I want to speak to about with the executive head of North Birmingham Academy, Joe Paddock. Now, Joe, we've had the results. How are you feeling about how your students have performed?
Yeah, really, really pleased. They've worked so hard, and they've removed as many barriers as possibly could over the last 2 years, and they've just performed outstandingly. So yeah, we're really, really pleased and proud.
And most of the students that we have spoken to this morning at Sky News have been really pleased with the outcome. There are a few that are slightly disappointed. What advice do you give to them?
So they just need to access the support that we've got on offer here. You know, if they haven't got into their university first choice, which is very, very, very few of them, then we will support them to look for an alternative. And we've got many success stories over the last 2-3 years where they haven't gone to their first choice, but are now are absolutely smashing it. So yeah, it's just take the support that's there, take some time to breathe, and just realise it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely, and everything happens for a reason, right? Yeah. Fantastic, thank you. Students here have been very happy, and those that have been slightly disappointed have been supported by the staff at this college.
Shimon, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for that. Let's get to Dan now. He's at UCAS HQ in Cheltenham. Dan, unbelievably busy day for all the people there at UCAS.
Yeah, the phones are off the hook here, of course. Not everyone got the grades that they needed, so this is the nerve centre of clearing, where those students who perhaps didn't get their first choice or haven't yet applied are going through the system, and that is very busy. Let's break down some of the figures that we've had from UCAS. We're joined now by Dave Penny, who is the Chief Communications Officer here. Dave, thanks for speaking to us. A record-breaking year, hasn't it? Just drill down some of the figures that you've found out this morning.
Yeah, an amazing day to be a student this morning. So congratulations to everyone receiving their results today. 82% of students waking up and logging into ucas.com have been placed at their first choice university. That's roughly the same number as last year. And we see other great data points in terms of some of the most disadvantaged students, more of those hoping to start university this year and have been placed.
Yeah, we've seen that, haven't we? Number of 18-year-olds from the most deprived areas in England, Wales and Northern Ireland getting a place. Talk to us about the record in terms of the number of placed students on results day, 439,000. I think that's a record high, isn't it?
It is a record high, even higher than 2021, which was our last. So in the height of the pandemic, the number of students surged. So this is a really, really impressive data point, and I think it's testament to the hard work of students, but also the work that goes on in universities to recruit those students.
We know that there's around 27,000 clearing spaces that your team are going to be trying to shift. Probably isn't the right word here, because there's some top universities and there's some top places available here. But are you sort of seeing that perhaps students are being slightly more picky? It's a big decision to go to university. It costs a lot of money. They're going into a workplace which is perhaps more squeezed, the threat of AI and so forth. Are students being a little bit more picky?
I think students are extremely savvy. So one of the really interesting data points we see is just the rise of STEM subjects. So engineering, mathematics, they're up double digits this morning. And I think that students looking at the job landscape and the rise of AI, and really, I think they're making that conclusion that they want to work with AI rather than be replaced by it.
It's a real change point at the moment, isn't it? Quick word on international students, because it's interesting to see that that's up this year. Some 52,000 or so international students, mainly from China. They underpin a lot of the finances for universities in the UK, don't they?
They're hugely important to UK universities. It's always been a feature of our world-class universities that they attract the best and brightest across the world, and you can see that in the data points this morning. As you say, China up significantly, but not only China, other markets are up, and that speaks to the power of the UK higher education brand across the world.
Okay, Dave Penny from UCAS, thanks for chatting to us. As I say, around 27,000 courses available here. The lines opened at 8 o'clock, and within a couple of seconds, they were off the hook. Advisors helping those students who perhaps didn't get the grades they needed.
Dan, really interesting stuff. Great stuff as always. Thank you very much, Dan Whitehead there at UCAS HQ. Much more on A-Levels results day throughout the day here on Sky News. Now, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will arrive in London this morning to meet with Sir Keir Starmer in Downing Street. His visit comes ahead of Donald Trump's meeting in Alaska tomorrow with Vladimir Putin. Well, Mari's in Downing Street for us this morning. Mari, expecting his arrival in the next 20 minutes or so, and a very important conversation to be had, no doubt, between Starmer and Zelenskyy, but no one can ignore the fact that they're not at the even more important meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, Wilf. That is the key takeaway, really, is the absence of Zelenskyy and, of course, Starmer as well at that important summit tomorrow. We've got, as you say, in about 20 minutes' time, President Zelenskyy going to be arriving behind me. He'll be greeted by Keir Starmer at the door before they go inside. And of course, top of the agenda is going to be that summit tomorrow, whether they think they've been successful enough as a coalition of European leaders to bring Donald Trump over to their way of thinking, or at least remain open-minded to some of Ukraine's concerns and worries when it comes to any possible peace deal or negotiations around the conflict or the cessation of conflict in Russia and Ukraine and between those two nations. Keir Starmer has continued to repeat the same kind of rhetoric we've been hearing for a year now, but very much stressing that there can be no decisions about the future of Ukraine without Ukraine being present. We've had minister after minister saying the same. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary on Sky News this morning, saying something to that effect, saying Ukraine must be involved in deciding its outcome. But the difficulty is, as you were saying, Wilf, we are not there in the room tomorrow as a nation. Zelenskyy is not there tomorrow. Donald Trump has said that there's a possibility, perhaps, of bringing in Zelenskyy to a future meeting if it's appropriate, but we still don't know how that listening exercise, as it were, is going to go tomorrow. So solidarity for Ukraine from the Prime Minister today, but what really can they do until they know what happens tomorrow?
Mari, great stuff as always. We're going to be back out with Mari as and when we see President Zelenskyy's arrival in Downing Street. That's expected in the next half an hour or so. Now, GDP figures have been released this morning and they're better than expected. We've heard from the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride.
The numbers are welcome and importantly, GDP per person is also up. So that means more money in the pockets of working people. Look, I recognise we're just a year into this government. There is more to do to ensure that working people in all parts of Britain are better off. But these numbers show that our economy is growing. We are producing more and that's good for living standards and good for businesses across our country as well.
What we're seeing actually is growth this quarter at about under half the rate that we had in the first quarter. So we've got a slowing growth picture. Now, why has that happened? That's because of what the government has done, taxing the living daylights out of businesses, borrowing and spending lots of money, keeping inflation higher than it would otherwise have been, with interest rates being higher. And of course, we're heading into the autumn now to a budget which will no doubt see some extensive tax rises, which will further damage to our economy.
We're going to take a quick break here on The Breakfast Show. And when we come back, football's back. The Premier League, no less, is back. We'll be looking ahead to the new season with David Seaman and Jamie Redknapp. Don't go anywhere.
gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos, analysis, up at 6%. Podcasts, watching us live. Joins us live. All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Murky low cloud in the northeast and west will largely burn back to the coast this morning, leaving sunny spells for most. It'll stay mainly dry, but showers will develop mostly in the north and west. Thundery downpours are possible, especially over northeastern Britain. It'll be less hot. Showers will develop a little more widely this afternoon, becoming largely confined to the northeast later. The somewhat cooler conditions mean pollen levels will be lower than yesterday, but most places will see moderate amounts of weed pollen, mainly nettle family.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Well, the waiting is over. The Premier League is back this weekend, and I'm delighted to say, to discuss that, I'm joined by Jamie Redknapp and David Seaman, two guys that need no introduction. Gents, good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning.
And this season, Jamie, you're going to be busy.
We are.
The Sky Sports has got how many? 215 live games.
215 live games. I'm doing every one of them.
Oh,
no. No, people will be switching off.
But, I mean, it's a long season as it is. I mean, this is an unprecedented number of live games on Sky Sports.
It is, but Sky Sports has always been, and I'm not just saying because obviously I'm lucky enough to work for Sky, it's the home of football. Always has been for many, many years when Premier League started. And to see what Sky has done for football and footballers has been absolutely incredible. You know, we're all very fortunate to have reaped the benefits of it. You know, we were both involved in the Premier League when it first started and thought, well, how is this going to go? Is it going to become this huge, phenomenon that it has? And it's certainly surpassed that. It's been incredible. So, yeah, lots and lots of games on Sky again this season.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to it. And David, I mean, your career, interestingly, sort of snapshots pre-Premier League, pre-Sky Sports televising live games and second half of the career. Do you remember that moment when it transitioned? By the way, as we talk about this, we dug out some of the old commercials. Both of you featuring in some of them.
I was just about to say this about
more facial hair for David back then.
There you are. My two lads, Dan and Tom.
Yeah.
They're now 30 and 39.
Is that them in that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Amazing. But do you remember when that moment changed? Did it make a big difference, live television at football games?
Not massively on the pitch, obviously, but the more that you see of it now, it's just. This was all incredible, and everybody wanted to be on these adverts as well, So if you weren't on it, you were like, oh no, what's going on?
But so I'm interested in that. So as it built down the years, the level of intrusion, camera, social media, even now, did that change your experience as a footballer, or was the experience of playing in front of so many people live already something that trumps all of that?
No, this really helped. It helped off the field stuff as well. Obviously you're getting different sort of contracts offered to you because of your popularity. But yeah, when it all started, it was just fantastic. And then obviously the new Premier League trophy, that was the thing. I remember seeing that, thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind drinking champagne out of that.
Yeah, well, it's something you did get the chance to do. And on this note, we were talking before the interview, and we wanted to ask you what your greatest Premier League memory was. And we've got a clip of it, David.
Right.
This was in May 1998, Arsenal on the verge of lifting the Premier League trophy.
This was the... this is Tony Evans. I was actually at Highbury a week ago talking about this. See, like Tony left foot. What is going on? Put through by Steve Bold.
Put through by Steve Bold, and then obviously moments later, David, you got to lift the Premier League trophy. You won a lot of trophies, but this is
one of my favourites, or the favourite, because it's the first double, and it was Arsenal's first trophy, and it was a time when he came into Arsenal and changed everything that we did at Arsenal. We were still successful before that, but he just took us to another level, and not only us, he made everybody else catch up.
you know, and then some clubs overtook us, you know. So the way that he taught football, the way that he taught players how to look after themselves was just so special.
It had influence on us. I remember we used to hear that what Arsene Wenger used to have yogurts before game. So all the Liverpool players started having yogurts before games. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to win the league. But it was all that influence was so important.
Well, we've got some of your great goals, Jamie, which we're going to watch as we continue the discussion. I'm really interested in this, though, Jamie, because we just saw Tony Adams score there. Obviously, he was a great captain of Arsenal, also of England. You both played for him when he was England captain. And on this channel, we talk a lot about leadership and political leadership. But, Jamie, you also captained Liverpool, you captained Tottenham. What does it take to be a great leader on a football pitch?
You just need to be good with people. You know, you need to have good people skills, understand the game, understand what it means to the people. Certainly in Liverpool, when it's an emotional place, you have to sort of get to grips with what it feels to that enormity of like captaining such a big club, you know, and it does bring extra pressure with you. And at times it's difficult to get your head around because you're not just in charge of, you know, tossing the coin. You've got to make sure that everyone in around you is doing their job. And when you're not perhaps at your best, then to keep pushing, to keep helping, to keep encouraging people is never that easy. But I was very fortunate. You know, I'm fortunate with injuries, but I had lucky enough to play for Liverpool for 11 years and then go to Tottenham. And I played with some amazing players. I think Steven Gerrard, Michael Owen were playing that day. And yeah, I'm very fortunate to have the career I had. But like with Tony was a real leader to me. When I played for England with Tony Adams, I remember looking at it and thinking, you're just a leader of men. No matter if it was football or leading your country, he could have done it. He just had that kind of gravitas about him.
David, can you win a big competition without a great leader? I think maybe it's an ingredient that's underrated?
Maybe not. I don't think it matters as much now. Because you get a lot of characters now in teams that are also could be captains, you know, and I think that's what you were saying is like at Liverpool and at Tottenham you had other players that could have easily been captains, so they all like put in together. You know, I remember playing and Tony was captain, and then Patrick would say, guys, I'm just going to sit in front of it, you know, because we were under pressure for 10 minutes. You know, so we were making decisions on the pitch, but not just Tony. It was a group, you know, and that's what happened.
Bring it back, both of you, to this season, and it's been interesting transfer windows. I have a feeling who you're both going to pick as likely to win the league, based on past allegiances. But, David, who's going to win it this season?
Well, I think Arsenal have got a great chance now. You know, it's all about consistency and people talking in a negative way that we've finished second, 3 times in a row, whatever it is. But now, you know, we're there or thereabouts, and now we've added on to that. We've made some great signings in all positions as well, all the way through the field. So that might give us that extra edge that we need.
Jamie?
I think Arsenal will be the closest. I still, not because of my allegiance to Liverpool, but I think Gyökeres is going to be a great signing for you, Zubimendi in midfield. And you have a world-class young player coming through in Max Dallman. You know, he's going to be one to watch this season. He's a very special, he's only still 15 years of age. He will get games, and he's the closest thing I've seen to Rooney. I played against Rooney in his debut. I remember him scoring one past you, David, very early. So, mate, well, it has been a bit of Arsenal TV so far.
Well, basically, Ofcom required us to get you on for balance.
Yeah, otherwise, but Liverpool, I still think Liverpool. I think Wirtz is going to be a really good signing for them. You know, he's got tremendous ability, but I still feel maybe they need a defender. If they can get Gay across the line, that would be good.
Quick final thought I had, which is, you know, we've all been inspired by the Lionesses over the summer, and I think a lot of people dwell on how close the men's England team came under Southgate. But both of you in the Euro '96 squad, and people sort of forget how close we were then. Tough question to end on maybe, but do you look back on that with great memories, or is it sort of heartbreak, not quite getting over the line?
No, for me and for the England at that time, I think it was great memories. You know, I think one of the most important things that we did then was we helped England fans love the England team again, because it was a little bit toxic before that. But then it was an amazing time, though, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I broke my ankle playing against Scotland. And normally you'd leave the squad and go back and get rehab. I was like, I'm not leaving this. This is the best. It was like a football stag do. It was we had everything going. We had the wonderful players, but the camaraderie, and Terry Venables, bless him, was amazing manager, and yeah, great fun.
Great fun. And again, congrats to the Lionesses this summer. It was amazing stuff. The Premier League, of course, kicks back off again this weekend. It's been great to have you both on. Oh, there was a game last night?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see it, unfortunately.
I did.
I did see it, and I know what you're alluding to. And I will say this: Tottenham were magnificent yesterday. We're just very unlucky. And we can now go back to Sky News instead of Arsenal TV now. If you wish to switch over.
Gents, it's been a real pleasure. Good luck with the coverage,
Thank
Jamie.
you, guys.
We're going to take a quick break here on Sky News, back in Downing Street for Zelensky's arrival in a couple of minutes.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent. I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace. The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland. Catholics and Protestants now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19, religion's nothing.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back to breakfast here on Sky News. As you can see, the red carpet is out on Downing Street. We're awaiting the arrival of President Zelensky any moment now to meet Keir Starmer. Mari's there for us. Mari, all important conversations to take place in Downing Street today when we do see President Zelensky's arrival. But, of course, they'll be talking about what might be said in 24 hours' time.
Yeah, absolutely. To an extent, their work is done until tomorrow when it comes to what Donald Trump decides with Putin. Now, Trump has said it's a listening exercise. Essentially, it's an introductory meeting to see if a deal can be done. So we'll have to see whether there's even any prospect of a peace deal after that. But I think this morning, as we're waiting for Zelensky to arrive in Downing Street, Keir Starmer Starmer behind that black door, clearly there will be a level of nervousness, a level of apprehension around that summit tomorrow. And of course, I think when we see the two leaders outside Downing Street, hopefully in just a few moments, I'm sure there'll be warm words, there'll be, big gestures of goodwill in front of the cameras. But the question really behind the cameras is how are they going to hash out some of the possible details and red lines. We know that European leaders have been very, very strongly lobbying for Ukrainians' interests in terms of making sure that they are at the table for any negotiations on a peace deal, on land swaps, whatever it might be, whatever that ends up looking like. And clearly Keir Starmer will want to show Zelensky that he is still very much on his side with his support, and really showing that actually, he might not be at that summit tomorrow. His absence is notable, but nonetheless he's valued here in the UK, and that our view and our position remains unchanged.
And Mari, talk to me about the sort of significance of all of this taking place in middle of August in Downing Street. We know earlier in the week Friedrich Merz cut short his holiday to host the call yesterday. The same sort of thing from Keir Starmer. This is such a priority to be here in person, host Zelensky. Nothing else matters?
Totally. I think, you were talking earlier about holidays for politicians, I remember earlier in the show, and really when you're a politician, especially a senior politician, holidays do not exist. Even if you're on holiday, you are always working. And clearly, as you say, Keir Starmer wanted to make sure he was here for this. Zelensky already in Europe anyway, in Western Europe anyway, because of being in Berlin yesterday with Friedrich Merz. And so actually being there, that physical moment, that handshake, that greeting, and then the conversation is incredibly invaluable in comparison to, a Zoom call, for instance, which doesn't necessarily have the same salience. And so I think the Prime Minister wants to demonstrate how important this is. Yes, it might be parliamentary recess. Yes, MPs are not sitting. Technically, it's the, summer holidays, as it were, for politics. But obviously, politics never stops, especially when it comes to international events and international diplomacy. And that's proven by, for instance, J.D. Vance, potentially, he's supposedly on holiday, but clearly meeting politicians left, right and centre while he is here. And I think politicians all over the world at the moment really feel that there needs to be a kind of added level of impetus to try and find a resolution and the beginnings of a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine in order to stop the killing, stop the fighting, and find a way through this. We know the US administration are frustrated with the length this war has gone on and how much it has cost them, of course, and therefore summer or no summer, if they can get a deal, they're going to want one.
And in terms of the relationship between these two men, clearly it's warm, clearly it's friendly, but we've had an interesting sort of kind of transition of an unbelievably close relationship between Zelensky and Johnson. It was warm and positive with Sunak, and the same with Starmer. Is there much to read into that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Keir Starmer, when he came to power, was very much determined to mirror and emulate what he saw from the Conservatives when it came to Ukraine. If you remember back when the Conservatives were still in power, Labour made a point of always making sure that they stuck with the government's position. Despite being the opposition, they felt that actually this was above party politics. This was far too important and far too serious to try and play any sort of political games, and therefore they were always very supportive about that. And actually, I remember Rishi Sunak talking about that when he paid tribute to Keir Starmer when he won the election, saying that actually, they might be from different political parties and have different beliefs, but when it came to Ukraine, there was a level of understanding and there was a level of kind of collaboration there, despite the fact that they were technically at war when it comes to politics. And I think also, not just that, but Starmer is wanting to show that actually Labour can be taken seriously on the international stage. Labour can also make things happen and actually flex its muscle, have a bit of influence, and perhaps do more, maybe behind the scenes, than we're seeing in front of the cameras, to really facilitate international deals and also collaborations, and of course, brokering peace.
And in terms of the kind of attendees, is this expected to be just the two of them? And are we expecting a press conference? Are we expecting open Q&A to follow or not?
So as far as we know, we're not expecting a press conference and therefore no Q&A. We are still waiting to find out if we're going to get a readout after this meeting. That has still not been confirmed. If we do get a readout, hopefully we do, that will give us some level of an indication of what is discussed, what was talked about, and of course, the various lines that I'm sure will be repeated once again, that we've been hearing being repeated all this week ahead of these meetings and tomorrow's summit. But for now, as far as we're aware, no press conference and no Q&A, and we still don't know if we are going to get a readout, but fingers crossed we do, and then we can bring that to you and give you an indication of what went on in the room.
It's going to be fascinating, Mari, as well, to the next 24 hours. There's such a make or break moment for President Zelenskyy. It could be something that is very damaging. Oddly, I don't know how we all read the comments from President Trump yesterday after that group phone call, but if he doesn't hear from President Putin what he wants, it's possible he will come down with those thumping increases in sanctions and other actions towards Russia and President Putin that could be a moment of significant progress in President Zelensky's eyes. It's going to be fascinating to try and read his mood after what's so much uncertainty for him.
Oh, for sure, Wilf. I mean, we've heard from the Prime Minister that European leaders are talking about everybody needing to be, to an extent, ready, prepared for the possibility of really clamping down on Russia when it comes to economic sanctions. And to an extent, they're talking about that quite openly because they want that kind of threat to be hanging over Russia, hanging over Putin going into that meeting. They want Putin to know they mean business when it comes to the possibility, the threat of sanctions, and clearly talking about that and stressing that and having it reported in the news, in the papers, etc. This week only really strengthens their ability to try and leverage some of that threat, as it were, against the Russians, and therefore then it can be in the forefront of Putin's mind going into that meeting. So I think because we don't know what's going to come out of tomorrow's meeting, it's hard to know whether any of those things will actually be necessary. Perhaps the meeting will go far better than some more sceptical voices expect, and those sanctions won't be necessary. We know that Donald Trump has talked about sanctions in the past, talked about punishing Russia in the past, and it doesn't always end up happening or happening in the way that perhaps we are told originally. And so the question is, how much is that bark rather than bite? And obviously we know that Putin, to an extent, he responds to strength, and therefore Zelensky's talked about how he wants to make sure that European leaders show that they are not bluffing, that Ukraine is not bluffing, and therefore people, those leaders need to be willing to follow through on those promises, on those threats of sanctions and potentially crippling sanctions for Russia to really try and push Putin to the negotiating table and to a negotiated peace settlement that they can actually get on board with.
And Paul's joined me on set here. And I mean, Paul, it's interesting because it's not that much more that the UK can do to punish Russia on sanctions, but there is quite a lot more that the US can do. And I guess we got quite an interesting glimpse, a snapshot of that, because it doesn't just relate to sanctions directly on Russia. It's some of the partners that are allowing Russia to continue to make money at the moment. And we got a glimpse of that when he started to add tariffs, President Trump, on India. And of course, that flow of oil and gas from Russia previously to Europe has changed and is going to places like China and India. So there are some levers there that President Trump could pull this weekend if tomorrow doesn't go the way he wants it.
There certainly are, and we've seen President Trump use his tariffs to address whatever ills he's decided they should be used for. But he was explicit about that tariff level on India nudging 50%, that it was because India is buying Russian oil. We've seen so many of the European level sanctions, of which the UK has been a part, while it's not a part of the trading bloc of the EU anymore, have been effective relatively, particularly oil and gas. We know Europe essentially was put in a position where it had to turn off the gas taps following the invasion of Ukraine. The crackdown on wealthy individuals, financial institutions harbouring Russian capital, London, a huge centre, the biggest financial centre in Europe. There has been success there. Of course, there has been a focus on how Russia has got round the back of some of these. We've seen the shadow fleet that's been transporting oil, some of it passing through UK waters, apparently beyond the reach of UK jurisdiction to do anything about it. The Russian economy, perversely, has the figures, some of the figures, of growth figures we've been discussing about the UK, some of their figures have actually sustained pretty well because it's now a wartime economy. They've pushed into armaments, munitions. There's a huge effort going on now. How much has been hollowed out by the cost of that war? It's perhaps very difficult to know at this distance, but there is scope for President Trump to hit them should he choose.
Mari, we can see there the cars pulling up and no doubt expecting to see President Zelensky imminently.
Ceasefire, Mr. President. What's your message to President Trump? Will the UK put boots on the ground to secure a ceasefire? Will you call out President Trump if he falls to Putin? Right now, all eyes are on. Is President Trump listening to you, Prime Minister? Is he listening to you, Mr. President? Ultimately, everyone. Will you reject land loss, Mr. President? Trump, Vladimir Putin. Will you accept the frozen conflict, Prime Minister? Will you back Ukraine fully?
And Mari, it's hard to have imagined a warmer greeting and embrace there than we just saw.
Yeah, absolutely. A very warm greeting there between Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Zelensky. Slightly behind schedule, but nonetheless, we know that the two leaders have a good relationship. We know that Zelensky is incredibly grateful when it comes to the UK's unrelenting support for Ukraine and for the country's sovereignty. And clearly there, it was difficult because it was a very warm embrace, but nonetheless, very, very kind of serious, stoic expressions on their face because they understand just how high the stakes are in the next 48 hours. And clearly, Ukraine, as we've known it, of course, is, at a crossroads, perhaps, depending on how seriously we can take tomorrow's summit and what comes out of it. And Zelensky knows that, and Starmer knows that too.
Well, Mari, we are going to come back later on in the programme, and of course, any readouts, any news of the details of the conversation, we'll be back there immediately. But for now, we'll leave Downing Street. Of course, there are those pictures there of the arrival from President Zelensky moments ago. Now, some breaking news for you. The year's A-level results, of course, have been released across the morning. And Anjan Pirbakos can now join us from Bexley Heath Academy in South London with some of the summary of the scale of those grades that have been coming out this morning.
Hi, so let me tell you, the results are in and we've got some good news. We've seen a rise in the highest grades. The A-star and A grades have seen an increase of 0.5%. Not a huge rise, but still an increase from last year's, rising to 28.3% across the A-level cohort. We've also seen an uptake in the number of students who are taking T-levels as opposed to A-levels, and we've seen an increase there. We've also seen some subjects being preferred by students at A-levels. So the choices with subjects like maths and psychology have seen a steady rise, whereas the humanities and arts have definitely seen a decline over the last few years, and that has still remained in this cohort as well. I think it's really important to also remember that regional differences are still apparent in this cohort, and we had Jill Duffy, who is the chief executive of Ofqual, say that the regional differences are still not getting any better, and they're still very pronounced across the country. So that's definitely something that people will be looking at, I'm sure, as we look at these results in more detail. And UCAS have also released their figures this morning, and they've stated that 18-year-olds now they've offered more undergraduate positions and more places than they have done previously. So for young people in this particular cohort this year, for the 2025 A-level results, things have been largely positive for those students and the opportunities that will hopefully provide for them as they go forward in their journeys, either in work, apprenticeships or at university.
And Jim, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for that, and congratulations again to all students getting their results today. We want to get one student in particular's results, Paul. Your daughter Elle has now got her results?
She has got her results, and yeah, she got the results she needed.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I
Break
think
it
we
down
can
for
have
us.
students crying on air this morning, but perhaps not parents. Would be best. Yeah, she got. She got 3 A stars and an A, so she'll take that and she's going to study medicine.
Paul, congratulations to her and to you.
Well, yeah, indeed. It at least ensures that I'm going to remain economically active for a good few years. What we were talking yesterday about £20,000 a year in living costs. She's going to need a job.
What's a 6-year course?
6 years, 7 years into medicine. But
well, that's a very noble thing to be going into as well. So, Elle, congratulations. Incredible results and wonderful choice. So where she's heading off to? She knows where? She does know where, but I'll keep that to myself, if you don't mind. Of course. Share it. But again, congratulations to absolutely everybody getting their results today. A particular congratulations from everyone at Sky News to Elle. Paul, again, congrats. We're going to take a quick break here on The Breakfast Show. We'll be back with further details of that meeting between Keir Starmer and President Zelenskyy.
Fire, shouts the commander. There's a dash to safety.
We've now got to wait inside the shelter to see if there is incoming.
I'm Deborah Haynes, Sky's security and defence editor.
Should Russia's war with Ukraine escalate significantly, pilots like these could be called upon to go into combat for real.
It's like better. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Welcome back to Sky News Breakfast. Let's re-watch those arrival shots of President Zelensky in Downing Street from just moments ago. Incredibly warm embrace. It was, perhaps, to be expected, but nonetheless a bear hug between the two men. Mari was there watching it. Mari, we now await any details of the conversations. We're not expecting a joint press conference?
No, not as far as we know, no press conference. So the two leaders at the moment are talking in that building behind me. And of course, it's all going to be about tomorrow's summit and what might come out of it, and making sure that Ukraine's interests are protected and really remain at the forefront of not just European leaders' minds, but also, of course, the US administration's minds. And you saw those images there. I mean, that big hug between the two leaders, I think, is symbolic of not just their relationship as two men, but also the relationship between the UK and Ukraine. There has been unwavering support from the UK to Ukraine through different iterations of governments under Boris Johnson, under Liz Truss, under Rishi Sunak, now under Keir Starmer. That is one of the only things I think that has remained incredibly consistent, and obviously for good reason. And so now those two leaders being able to really frankly speak to each other about what might be about to happen tomorrow. We know Donald Trump has talked about the possibility of Zelensky being involved in a second meeting with Putin, depending on whether he thinks that's appropriate. Of course, that will also depend on whether Zelensky thinks that Russia is being serious, and obviously he has already laid out some of his red lines when it comes to what he will not do in a peace negotiation. So to an extent, Keir Starmer is in a position now where he needs to remain in solidarity with Zelensky, but nonetheless understand the US's position and the US's appetite to get a deal, even if it might not be a perfect deal.
Mari, great stuff. Thanks so much for that from Downing Street for us. Of course, the even more important meeting is tomorrow in Anchorage between Presidents Trump and Putin. And here is our US correspondent previewing that, James Matthews.
Alaska. It's where east meets west. Beneath its mountain ranges, it's where Trump meets Putin. Just a few miles of water separate this corner of the United States from Russia. At the sharp end of the Cold War, Alaska has known confrontation across the sea. Missile bunkers speak of history past as modern history plays out. The Russian bear at the back door is back in the fold. Time and Trump have warmed the Cold War chill. Where he goes next, we're about to find out.
There will be very severe consequences, yes.
There would be severe consequences, said Donald Trump, if Putin doesn't agree to end the war. An F-15 marks the spot where he'll meet his Russian counterpart. Ahead of an unpredictable encounter at this US military base, European countries have laid down their red lines. Russia, they say, can't block Ukraine's path to the EU or NATO, and no ceasefire on Friday will mean fresh European sanctions. Donald Trump is making optimistic noises, but he's also stressing this may come to nothing. Playing down expectations plays to the man not at the table. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, uninvited and uneasy at the prospect of a deal struck in his absence that he can't accept.
I would like to have ceasefire.
Anna Yarova and her daughter Emilia are invested in the meeting down the road. They're Ukrainians, among 1,300 in Alaska, who sought refuge from their country's war.
The president of Ukraine wants to save the entire country of Ukraine, which makes sense. But I hope that President Trump will be able to have some positive influence. But I just don't know if that will be possible. I just have to hope. I have to.
You don't know if it will be possible. Why? What would be what's the concern?
Тому що ця війна затяглася дуже довго і
This war has been going on for so long, and it's been so terrible that I don't know if the president of Russia will want to stop it.
It is a view that reflects reservations widely held around this summit. There is hope, albeit clouded by expectation. James Matthews, Sky News, in Anchorage, Alaska.
Time for a look at the weather now.
The perfect climate, wherever the destination. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The next few days look fairly settled and very warm, although most places won't be as hot as recently. It's muggy, but mostly fine now, although there are showers around, potentially torrential and thundery over the Northern Isles. There's fog in places too, while some northeastern and western coast counties are rather murky. Cloud there will largely burn off this morning, leaving sunny spells for most. It'll stay mainly dry, but showers will develop mostly in the north and the west.
The perfect climate, whatever the forecast. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Just over a minute left, and once again, reiterating our congratulations to everybody getting their results this morning. But Rachel, we do have to particularly congratulate El Kelso. Extraordinary.
Yes, I was going to say I bumped into this gentleman here having a very happy conversation in the kitchens earlier. Seems to have gone all right.
Well, you have to tell us now why she took so long to tell you. I was teasing you.
Is it delayed gratification? I don't know. She wanted to go and open the envelope and I guess be with her friends and then eventually let her parents know. I think relief, I mean, we're very proud of her, obviously, as everyone should be, but the relief, I hadn't quite realised how much it was weighing on us.
For everyone. Families all around.
Absolutely, and siblings as well, who've all been, you know, they've had their own exams, some of them younger kids, so it is a great relief. And it's helped by the fact she got the results she needed. But it's not the end of the world if you didn't.
No, and there's lots of advice on that, by the way, on the Sky News website, on the UCAS website and further afield. Congrats to everyone getting their results to the day. We're taking a quick break. Sky News Today up next.